Hello, and welcome to episode 118 of the Destiny Community Podcast.
Well,
my
thank you.
microphone's
Thank
a
you
little
so much.
far
Man.
away from my face. I'm just gonna move it closer. It's gonna make a weird noise.
Yeah.
Have fun with that, Nick. All right, so lots to talk about this week. Oh
Yes.
boy,
A lot. Many things. Controversy, celebrations.
there's
Puzzles.
a bunch of puzzles.
That make no sense at all.
But
we
more
have
than anything
we have two
else,
wonderful people on, Lowlidev and Goose. These guys, why don't you just tell us what you do?
Well,
Why
let
are
me
you
tell
here?
you what they do. I want to introduce them.
That works too.
They are like
Thank
pillars
God Pope is here.
in the community. These guys are literally the backbone of they represent. Now you guys sit back here for a second, because they represent a group of people that work like tirelessly. These are just two of a whole bunch of people that dedicate their knowledge and ability to code and work on these apps to make our lives easier. I don't know a single hardcore player that plays Destiny a lot that doesn't use Ishtar Collective, DIM, Lowlidev's website when you were out there farming for what were the things in Warmind? You had to go out and find all
Sleeping nodes and latent memories.
So these guys put together some of the or helped put together some of the most amazing apps out there, and I have to personally thank you for the thousands of hours you have saved me in time
Especially
and
on
energy.
the PlayStation.
So
It's like
first,
an actual-
Goose is as part of he's one of the founding members and part of the backbone behind, and by no means the only developer behind DIM, Destiny Item Manager, which is a great application for moving around your stuff on Destiny. But that's just the basics that it does. It organizes your inventory, it helps build classes, it does all this stuff. It tracks all
search.
you can search for things. They have a metadata that, like, is the gun good or not? There's all these things that they've put into the game that have made our lives better. And so thank you very much, Goose, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Great. Just happy to be here. This is a great show.
We should also mention for those watching the video, Goose's camera is in a different timeline.
Spot
all right?
Yeah, he's on a different. His computer is currently working on an algorithm to break the puzzle.
Yes.
It's a multiverse version of Goose in the video. All right, so just keep that in mind.
Nobody
snap
your
hand.
He's going to contribute as much as he can. And our next guest is Lowlidev, and I remember running across your website when I was playing Warmind, and that was the first time I ran across something that you had created. But that isn't your first community created app, is it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've actually been around before I actually did any apps. Like, I've been around since like pre-DIM almost, because I mean, back in those days, we were on the there's a forum on the forum group on the Bungie net, and it was like a place where all the developers sort of came together and talked about stuff. And it was at Dark Below. We heard about being able to move items, and there was a couple of us, trying to figure out how to get it to work.
So I want to ask you about that. You're like saying that on the Dark Below, a couple of you guys got together, and how did this community sort of form? How did you guys run into each other, and how did you start working? Because a lot of these are collective efforts. You guys are openly sharing what you're working on, the coding that you're working on, correct?
I mean, I'd say a lot of that's thanks to Rick here, because he's been, I suppose, a real pillar in getting folks together. I mean, we've got the Discord API, but we've also got the DIM Slack where, how many members has it got there now at the moment? It's a few.
We have about 110 individuals inside our Slack. One of the things that I've tried to do from the beginning is anytime I've seen someone develop an app or have an interest in developing it, they got a little skin in the game, I invite them to the DIM Slack where we can kind of collaborate. It's kind of like this NATO-esque environment where we have all these pillars of the community working together, trying to figure out how can we express the nodes, for example, or where can we get lore, so we're breaking apart the API, and a lot of people have a specific interest and they just bring it all together and it turns into beautiful code. So
you guys,
but I would say
from
the beginning, I would say a lot of the work that we have now is due to Lowlines, because he produced documentation where there was none in the very beginning. He formalized it and created the things that we read to learn more about the API.
I'm curious about any stories that you guys might have where you were working on your specific project, or somebody in the community was working on their specific project and needed the collective efforts to help solve a problem. Do you have any stories of that, or how you've come together to solve a problem?
Well, fun fact is there's a piece of code that's in DIM, and it is in a lot of other apps, including my website, and that's so everyone knows what the manifest is, that has like all the game data, that people often try to data mine for stuff. Well, the way that's stored is a bit complicated, and DIM had a solution, a bit of code that works, and they're just like, well, it's open source, use it. And so there's like a bit of DIM in a lot of apps, and
there's a little bit of DIM in everybody, right?
Yeah,
DIM and the Irish, so it's all good.
I didn't expect a Godzilla reference. All right.
We really wanted to make sure that the community benefited from the work that we did. Like I said, from the beginning, DIM was always going to be free, and we were like, well, let's just share the code, and what can grow from it. And we were solving hard problems in terms of authentication. How do we load the manifest data? How do we figure out the perk tree? That was an early problem, trying to understand how perks were expressed in the data. It's weird in there. I mean, they do a good job, but you got to think about the complexity of talent grids back in D1. When we were re-rolling for weapons, there was these talent grids that were kind of already laid down. We had to kind of figure out how to express that in the UI. I mean, that's code that we shared with Ishtar Commander, way, way, way back in the day. So we gave that to Nigel, and that started his perk code. So we definitely work with all the other, Little Light. I mean, any other item managers out there, we share all of our code. Use it.
One of the things that I think is fantastic, and Lowly, this is directed towards you, is it seems like you are able to reconstruct the feel of Destiny's UI, especially the map, and take it and make it useful on a computer in a way that searching, and there's a ton more functionality in it. Can you walk us through what was your desire when you were officially getting into the project? Why did you start that website?
Well, I suppose it sort of goes back to my experience as well playing games. So before Destiny, I played a lot of Borderlands, especially Borderlands 2. And there were a lot of cool little, I suppose, side apps around. So I remember this one on my iPad. It had like all the maps, and it had like alt symbols that you could like check off. It was all manual, but I just thought it was really nice how you could have like this, collection thing on a separate screen, manage it while playing the game. And when they announced the changes to the maps in for Destiny 2, I was just like, gotta put these two things together and make something fun with it. But unfortunately, a lot of those graphics and that aren't output into the API, so I had to wait until they were available through those Reddits and that.
And you've been, it's my understanding also that you, this community on this Slack is also, you know, at times work directly with Bungie, and that Bungie's a supporter of the work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the API guy, Vthorn. He's known on Reddit as he occasionally jumps in and does these amazing explanations of a particular problem that people have highlighted. And I don't know, you ever read any of his explanations? He just like, you know, he's really, really good. And the amount of work he does behind the scenes to make what we do a reality is amazing. Like the Mars maps, that didn't happen. That couldn't have happened without him. Like that was extra work that they did while working on Forsaken, to make it so that you could like check off which ones you had. Like that didn't exist until he sort of found a way to make it work. So you know, I make the front end, but like it nothing without the work he does on the APIs. And
yeah,
I can't stress that enough.
The checklist features too, right? Remember just before Forsaken when we had all that data available to show you what you've earned?
Yep.
And
yeah, that was extra work, right? I mean, that was all +1 stuff that they did to make it available for us. I mean, you know, there's a V Thornhart's Edgar Verona on Reddit. You know, we have Hello Control. We used to have a guy named Tetron. I mean,
he did a lot of the authorization stuff to allow you to sign in instead of stealing their cookies.
yeah. You know, but so I mean, you know, we have great participation from the Bungie.net team. They're in the Slack, and they're you know, it's a comfortable environment. We all know each other. You know, we got some ground rules where we, you know, take care of our Bungie guests. But they're, you know, very open. You know, they offer us wish lists. We just give them everything that we want, and then, you know, they'll kind of filter through it. And you know, it's really nice to have you know, a direct line to the people who are doing the work. You know, to ask questions when we have trouble. You know, to make sure that we're good curators of the API as well. We don't want to abuse it or use more resources than necessary. So, you know, that kind of level of feedback is very good for us. You know, we brought our refresh timer down from 5 minutes to 30 seconds after having, you know, consulted with V Thornhart. Yeah.
It's amazing how communicative they are, how open to like
awesome.
sharing information, actually working with changes.
That wasn't something that happened overnight either. Like that's something that sort of evolved over time. Like I remember it was like early on that forum I was talking about, the forum group, that was actually run by a guy called Dazarobo. He was a community person, and eventually it sort of the devs sort of joined in, you know, started talking, and it eventually sort of took over it, and then that evolved into the official APIs on GitHub with Destiny 2. So
can you give a timeline of when that began? Because I know you guys started, like you said, like when you could first transfer a weapon over, and like after Dark Below, like there was the beginnings of this stuff kind of rumbling with the API. What timeline happened to where the devs were like, oh, we should start focusing and helping with the community on this? Like, what, you know, was it the Taken King or was it Rise of Iron? Like,
it was much further back than that.
Oh yeah.
But the actual official, you know, transfer, that was something that sort of happened with Destiny 2. So
okay,
I think prior to Destiny 2, we sort of, you know, it was sort of like there was like a forum discussion where like, we want to do this. What do you want to see in like an official sort of sense? You know, like what things need to be visible and that sort of stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was really good to sort of
would you say
see that evolve over time.
Would you say they kind of like spec'd out what ultimately would be beneficial for Destiny 2 prior to that then? Or I mean, during that time they were spec'ing out what would benefit your guys' apps for the release of Destiny 2?
Well, first and foremost, the APIs is always first for the companion app.
Right.
It used to also be for the Bungie website, but the apps sort of the main
Mm-hmm.
consumer of it. But they obviously wanted, because they know we're going to use it anyway, regardless of. So
Yeah.
make sure it does what it needs as well. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good discussion, and like it's so good now that with the GitHub, because you can post issues and it's like a more proper like organized system, as opposed to a forum where everyone just posts their problems and then it gets lost in a sea of like messages.
Right.
Whereas GitHub's made for when there's an issue with or bugs, and they can get tracked and then followed up and that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, so you got to think all this stuff was really emergent in D1, right? I mean, the API showed up, House of Wolves-ish, 1.1.1, and we grabbed the cookie and figured out how to start moving things for you, and it was safe, but it was kind of like it doesn't feel comfortable, and so we kept pinging them.
I was
hey,
nervous.
You really want?
I was nervous. People talking about losing the Gallahorn in that transfer, being like, "Where to go?"
Oh yeah.
So let me tell
I remember
you,
that.
the biggest thing was when I was building the version of DIM you're using, and I was moving my Gallahorn through it for the first few times. I was like, okay. So I mean, every time someone tells me something, is it okay? I'm like, I have moved so much gear through this thing. It's fine. It'll be good. Never lost anything ever in the app.
Yet.
Yeah, most times
Okay,
when
so let me
something
tell you.
disappears, it's just that the API doesn't properly,
Well,
say that it's moved
do you
somewhere.
remember
Right.
when people would figure out that if you deleted something in the game but moved something in DIM, it would slide another thing under it, the reticle in the game, and then it would delete that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's how people were doing things like dropping their weapon.
Oh, interesting.
You know that.
Oh,
got
right.
it. Yeah.
That was the trick, right? So what people didn't know is that they were moving stuff in DIM while deleting something in game. You can like wipe out all your motes of light. There'd be people like, I just lost 1,000 motes of light. I'm like, don't move stuff while you're doing delete operations.
I mean, it sounds like Bungie is super supportive of the work you're doing in the community, and I think that's awesome. But I'm curious about the challenge that they have. There's two questions that I have about some of the challenges they have with being so open. I think that one of the problems is data miners, right? And people finding out secrets of the game. Does any of the work that they're doing to keep your access open and your avenues clear, does that affect in any way data miners' abilities to get into this information, or are those two different systems?
You want to answer that one or me?
You.
So something they introduced, I think, fairly early on is redacted entries. So that was something, because I think after like maybe Destiny 1 beta, those database, I think like Destiny DB or something, they had like all the information up there, like the entire database up there. So they had to start redacting information, and at first it was very broken, I suppose, because it was just like get all that information off, and so that way it's not getting leaked. But now it's a bit more structured, so like there's like a property that says redacted true or false, and that way developers can sort of look at the data and say, oh, this is redacted, so therefore I'll display like a
it's unfortunate when they do that. They remove a lot of information from the items. Like when you got Thunderlord and it was classified or redacted, we didn't know the light level of it. In the past, we couldn't move those items. Now we can
actually move them. That's been super nice.
Yeah, now we can move them. You just can't equip them, I believe. But we can
It's
get
close
them
enough.
You can't equip
it's
them
way
if
better
you're out of
than
the tower.
not being able to get them.
Yeah. So one of the things that we asked for the future is to get more data, get more metadata onto the item, even though it's classified, because knowing the light level doesn't impact the lore. So we're definitely communicating our wish list.
What is on the wish list?
Yeah. What do you got going on? What's the next things up on the pipeline for DIM and Lowlidev?
Go ahead.
Well, for me, it's sort of there's a lot of stuff that you can display on the maps, but I've end up having to do a lot of it manually. So I'm trying to rely more on the data that's in the APIs. So that way, I can like push updates more often and not have to go through and like doing stuff like the eggs. You can't get around, and you have to manually add those because they don't exist like on the maps. But stuff like, for instance, you have a quest line. I want to be able to bring that information and display it in a way that's meaningful. And has anyone used like braytech.org at all? They've got this really cool view called the This Week. I really like what's sort of been happening with that, and I'd sort of want to sort of incorporate something like that more, where you can sort of see what you have to do as opposed to just like checklists and triumphs and that. But the maps has been like in development for like 8 months or so, so it's sort of hit that point where it's like, if I keep adding more stuff, it gets a bit like, am I going to break something, or so you have to sort of figure out, take a step and figure out, so it sort of takes time. But yeah, and there's this other little thing I've been working on that I've sort of tried to talk about, and that's where you're tracking changes to your profile, and that's anything from like items to progressions to and the idea is that you can track it within like 30 or so seconds to sort of build like a change log, and then you could then take that data and use it to do interesting things, like maybe you wanted to calculate how fast you were gaining exotic engrams during an hour or something cool. But it's sort of like it's an idea. I'm trying to get it to put it together and then sort of saying, well, what can I do with it? And one of the things is, could it be used in streams, like as a Twitch extension or something? But
That'd be cool.
Can I give you an item for the wish list? So maybe it's not on the visual part of the UI that we have in game, but somewhere in there, those vague terms they use to describe guns and armor, there's got to be a number behind them. I wonder if that's in the API, and if DIM or your website could find a way of providing that in numeric form instead of in these bars or general terms.
Advanced tooltips, basically, instead of increases damage.
Yeah, what does that mean? What does increases damage mean?
Increase damage while in the forge. But how much damage?
But we want to know numbers.
I mean, that stuff's not available. I mean,
It's not in there. It's
no,
not in the API.
it's all calculated, and
there's a lot of stuff which is actually just in the form of like scripts. So it's very hard for Vthorn to like translate that to like a raw number. So it's like if you've used the 3D viewer at all, and you've looked at some of the more recent models like bows and that, they look absolutely crap because well, that's all done with the shader now. So, and that's code that I don't have. So all I've got is the models, and that's pretty much the same thing with a lot of the data in the APIs, is that it's what can actually be scraped in a meaningful form. So
yeah, I mean, if when you look at the item details, you'll see like magazine size, and it's like some weird number like 72. What does that mean, right? Or if aim assist is 23, like, well, what does that mean? And so like the scale is relative to the item type, and then even within certain item types, there's subclasses, and so it's it's the world of the designers and how they kind of script all of that into Destiny, and it just doesn't come out in the API at all. So we can just give you numbers. You figure them out. We'll let the testers like Mercules and Fallout, figure out how to
jump into private matches, do calculations.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, look, count those damages.
All right. Yeah.
And with all this time you guys spend making these community apps that are free to the community, how do you guys monetize this in any way? Because I don't have to pay to use DIM, and I don't have to pay to use Lowlidev.
Wait, you haven't been paying?
I mean,
we've monetized you. We've turned you into
The thing to
batteries.
sort of point out is when you use things like the APIs, you have to agree to a license agreement that or terms of use of how you use it. And one of those things is you have to be very careful about how you monetize things, because, like, for instance, some Ishtar could not make that app and then put it up for $5 on iTunes, because that would be wrong and breaking that terms of use. So
The license agreement for using the API, right?
yeah,
I sense by that smile that this has happened.
Not to us. I mean, there's been speculation like, well, if I make a free app and then I make an app that's $5, the people, it's free, anyone can download it, but the $5 one is people supporting me. Is that breaking terms of and so we avoid all that gray stuff and just say go for it. I mean, these are passion projects. These are projects for us to learn how to be better programmers, developers, architects, to learn how to do React development, Angular, to be better designers. I like building communities, but there's like a very small community of developers. But I mean, I like bringing people together to be beautiful things. I mean, it's we all get something out of it. But at the end, I think for most of us, these are hobbies. The result is a richly lived life.
So how do I get DIM and Lowlidev? Do I need to go to some BitTorrent and download it, or how does one get this? If I'm excited, I've been playing Destiny the wrong way all this time.
If you're not using DIM, you are playing Destiny the wrong way.
It's my ritual,
sunsets
man.
on the tower are beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But if I can help you see one less sunset.
Yes. Thank you. How does one get access to DIM?
I just want to say I open DIM before I open Destiny every time I play.
Yeah.
Most of the
Destiny.
time.
Yeah.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Well, you can go to DestinyItemManager.com, and that'll take you to our web app, which you can run on your phone. The web app runs great on Safari and Chrome on Android and iOS devices, and you can even save it to your home screen, and it has a very app-like experience. So,
Nice.
DestinyItemManager.com.
Isn't there also a widget on Google Chrome?
There's a little bookmark you can add to Chrome, so you can see the logo. And the best thing happened last week when one of the other developers came up and said, "Hey, I got a support ticket at work, and I saw a DIM icon in the Chrome browser. There's more of them out there."
That's why
there's
I
so
always
many.
see pictures on like Twitter of like somebody in a business meeting, and there's like rows of
like
people
little
with their
DIM
laptops, and
Yes.
then one guy's got DIM open like in the front row.
That was the best feeling ever, right? That was like really early, and you're like probably May of 2018. And someone just posted this thing on Reddit, like, "Oh, there's a guardian in the wild," and them using DIM was like a really flush feeling. Like, wow, we're making something tangible that's kind of touching people in ways they could still extend that experience beyond their couch. Right? They're doing it at work and moving their gear and getting ready to go home and play. That was just a really great feeling.
Well, I know
that's
that
awesome.
all this time that you guys are spending coordinating with all these other programmers and putting out the products that you guys put out to make our lives easier and allow us to have more game time significantly takes away from your ability to play the game you love more often as well. So for myself, I would like to say thank you very much. And until I got to take care of that. It just fell.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a 601, so holler if you guys want to jump on Xbox.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 650 on 2 characters, so I can't say anything.
But you got the real benefit though for DIM though is like as source, we have many developers, and we can spread that work, and so everyone kind of has a thing that they like to work on and maintain. By far and by large, Ben Hollis, I want to just give a shout out to him for developing a significant amount of code that you use today in DIM. And we got 48K locks that does wish lists. Have you heard of that?
No.
New wish list
yeah,
feature.
the wish list thing. Yep.
Yeah, this is so we have community ratings where people rate items and then we kind of express those like a number or a star. Wish lists are like the opposite of that. It's a curated list, and if you add the wish list for Holtzman, you would see his picks for the best rolls for weapons.
Oh, that's really cool.
You would see if you have some of them, they would show up and be highlighted, and then you can go get Mercules or anyone on your favorite streamers pick list. So it's just all that's a collaboration with Braytech, that new website. All their URLs, you just copy the URL of the role you want, put it in a text file as a list, and then save it on the internet.
That's cool.
Anybody can load them into DIM. So we're just trying to at the end of the day just make you a more productive player. If we can do that in an interesting way.
Don't accidentally delete a god roll.
Oh man, there's been some sleepy nights where I've done that.
Pope deleted a whole character when he was messing around with a Scuf controller.
That's true. That's very
See his
true.
console. He was explaining how to use the paddles, and he deleted a character.
You have to hold that down for a really long time.
I know, right?
I don't know. What are you doing?
Yo, I heard some really crazy news today.
No way.
Do we need to talk about the elephant in the room?
I think we do. So it appears that Bungie is leaving Activision and they're taking Destiny with them, which I gotta say it was pretty shocking to read, right?
I didn't expect that at all.
When I
was
first read that they're leaving Activision, I'm like, oh no, so who's going to develop Bungie or who's going to develop Destiny? But then as you read on, you're like, oh, they're taking the IP with them.
Keeping it.
They're taking it. Yeah. I feel like this was their long-term plan all along. Because they left Xbox, right? They left the whole Microsoft thing. So they knew what it was like being under a publisher. Yeah. But they obviously needed some help to get Destiny off the ground because they couldn't just do it with nothing.
Yeah.
That was a little different though, right, Watts? Is when they were under Microsoft, they were
right. Yeah.
And this was a publishing deal for Destiny.
Yes. This gives them full control of their own game, which is pretty amazing. There's not many companies out there, even, AAA companies that make video games where they are the publisher, the creator, absolutely everything. It's not a super common thing to happen. I think, so my initial reaction was, this is going to be a lot of work in the short term, and it's a big risk because you have all those people at Activision who do advertising, they do community meetup stuff, so they set up all the things of us going to Bungie or going to conventions and capturing footage. That's all on Activision. So all of that stuff has to move over to Bungie. But I think ultimately in the long term, it's going to be an extremely positive thing for them to have complete control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pope, go for it. You were chomping at the bit on the pre-show, man.
You were. Let's go, Pope. I want to hear that theory of what you were talking about.
I'm a little rattled because my daughter fell. She's like, they don't call them sure-footed children. They call them toddlers.
Right.
And she toddled her way off of the top of a table and hit her head. And so, you turn away for a second and they climb up something and then they just wham. But anyway, I could hear from across the house. So she's all right. But so I was chomping at the bit. Yes. I mean, it's Bungie Independence Day. It is a freaking celebration. We should be setting off fireworks. It's every argument we've ever had where we've pointed our finger at Activision and said that they're the evil.
Who made this decision, right?
Right. The evil empire. So if anything, this tears that down. We can't say mom did it, but dad was the one who did it. It wasn't, mom or dad. Let's just say that we know now who is
and
making the
we
decisions.
can do when a mistake happens. We can say, but Bungie's just an indie company, so
that's stretching that definition pretty hard.
It works for Riot.
They barely have any resources available.
I know, absolutely not.
I'm just extremely happy. I know that I was putting on my tinfoil hat before this show I thought for sure, if I'm Jason Jones, the owner, the founder of Bungie, where do I go with this company that I've created? And it's not just opening up one IP and being happy with it. And he's a creative person. He wants to keep moving and creating. And I think that this positions Bungie as that umbrella company where they can then bring in several new IPs. And I think that they're positioning themselves for that new deal that you guys were talking about with that other company, right?
NetEase, yeah.
So that's not going to be
Well, that's a different game, though.
Right. That's not going to be Destiny. That's going to be
Right.
this new game. And I think that they're positioning Bungie as this, Bethesda type company where they would have several different IPs underneath it. And then these companies like Vicarious Visions and what was the other
High
one?
Moon.
High Moon. They're going to be like, Treyarch and
Well, wait a minute. Are Vicarious Visions and High Moon coming along with them, or they still?
We don't know yet.
Those are
Activision
like
owned
Yeah, I
properties.
thought those were Activision companies.
Those are, but I'm saying companies like them, right? These smaller studios that are helping Bungie create this with this larger workflow. I think that those companies are going to be coming in and forming these IPs, right? And these production cycles, and then you're going to get another game, and we're going to probably see Bungie owning,
So you're
another
talking
2 to 3.
Bungie wants to be a publisher.
I'm thinking Bungie's growing, and then Bungie's
Wants
going
to
to be
do
its
everything.
own. It's going to be its own publisher.
They want to be like
it's
a
gonna
Blizzard.
Be its own Activision.
They want to be like a Blizzard,
Blizzard.
Bethesda type of thing, where they have
Right.
3 or 4 really strong IPs that they are releasing like every year or so.
Mhm.
Right, and everyone who works at Bungie would be working on all of those games.
Right. I mean, that,
So I
definitely
think,
sounds
I think this is
plausible.
really I think this is really exciting news for Bungie. I think like any business that deals with creative people, it's going to be extremely difficult. On the opposite side, I think it gives them a lot of freedom, but then at the same time, I think it's very difficult that if anybody works in a creative field, it's sometimes good to have that person cracking the whip a little bit with deadlines
pressure.
and things like that.
Right. That's my biggest concern right now, Pope, is that I feel like that person cracking the whip was Activision, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you read Jason Schreier's book, like it does Destiny ever come out without Activision cracking that whip?
It's like Borderlands. Like Borderlands has the ability to release Borderlands, or Gearbox has the ability to release Borderlands whenever they want because they own it. And it's been like 8 years since we've had a brand new. Well, no, not 8 years. I guess it has been 8 years, right? 6 years because we had a pre-sequel. It's been a long time, essentially, since a new Borderlands. We're waiting for that, and that's my concern too. It's a catch-22 because like we are getting all this content like on a semi-regular schedule right now, and if they are in full control of that release, then it's like I don't think D3 is coming out anytime soon.
So I think that the annual pass was on Bungie's side because I think Activision was definitely behind the whole Dark Below kind of releases, and I think Bungie was sold this annual pass idea to Activision where it was like this is going to be much better for the type of players that we have in our game.
Right.
It's just about, like you said, if are they going to be able to have those deadlines? I mean, I think so. I think if anything, Bungie has become more harder on themselves than in D1. I think that they seem to always be very hard on themselves of whether they're making the right decision, and they seem to be making a lot of risks recently, trying a lot of new stuff. So.
Mhm.
Being hard on yourself
think it's
is,
exciting.
it can be a good thing, but it also can be a real problem. Like if you
It-
strive for perfection, you
You
can never
never-
actually release
True.
the finished project because you're always trying to make it perfect before you get out the door.
Yeah.
True.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, when you are constantly being hard on yourself, you also end up like giving yourself more time because it's not perfect yet. And in the games industry, I'm pretty sure it's never perfect. It's never at a point where
Right.
the game's perfect.
Yeah.
It's art. So it's always going to be, somebody has to make the call of like, well, we have to ship it. And that was Activision. Like, I think you're right, Watts. They're, I think they are obviously better off without having that huge pressure of the financial Activision, monster chasing them saying, you got to release this right now. Ship D2 the way it is. Like that's obviously not good for the franchise. But at the same time, I feel like we're probably going to be waiting for D3 longer than 2020. I think it's like 2021, 2022,
man.
maybe, because they're going to have the time and the ability to afford their schedule. And
well, the whole release schedule can be more flexible, I think. I mean, so if you read Jason Schreier's article about this, he mentions that this was an 8-year deal, right? And this is the end of that 8-year deal between Bungie and Activision.
It was a 10-year deal with an 8-year clause.
Okay, 8-year clause. So both of these companies might have seen this coming, but that release schedule that was, Bungie always had to hit that because of that deal with Activision. But both of those companies kind of knew that, this was coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, is there a Destiny 3?
But if you think,
or do we just iterate on Destiny 2?
The next generation consoles are, do you want to release D3 a year before the next gen? Or
I
do you
don't
want to wait until that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting close to that cusp now, right?
Yeah.
We've got to start thinking about when is that next gen going to drop? Is it going to be 21? 20? When we're going to hear more about that. And so, I mean, I'm speculation game, right? But yeah, I mean, that's what I would be thinking about.
Yeah.
It could be staggered too. We might get the Xbox, a year before the next PlayStation. So it could be a staggered release of the consoles.
And I want to tie into that, Briar, because I think one of the first things that popped into my head is about consoles, is about PC, is about cross save. This deal opens up a huge opportunity for Bungie, who I believe is supportive of that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Opening up cross save and cross play. I'm not sure cross play is going to be maybe that's down the road, but I think we're going to see cross save happen sooner than later for us with a Bungie and an indie game studio like Bungie.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about Activision's history with console exclusives with Call of Duty, those were 10-year deals, right? Call of Duty had a 10-year deal on Xbox, and then it moved over to the PlayStation. And I guess I always assumed that the Activision had formed the same kind of a deal for Bungie with PlayStation. But if it was an 8-year deal based on this clause, then it could be that deal is ending now as well, and that Bungie, freed of the PlayStation 4 exclusivity deal, would open up crossplay and cross save.
Because that was a deal with Activision and Sony, right? Not Bungie and Sony.
And
I guess
I believe it's because the publisher owns that right to sell that part of it. That's what Activision does.
Yeah.
That's their job. So that's the creative end. Bungie does the creative end. Activision does the money end of it.
Right.
Now, what I'm excited about, and this is what I see. I'm reading. I am putting on that tinfoil hat. I am diving. This is wild. This is wild speculation. Bungie puts this tweet out, right? Within short order, within an hour, both Xbox and PlayStation have commented, and Blizzard
and Epic
have all commented positively about this within the hour. That doesn't happen without coordination. These are people that are talking to each other and are knowing. This isn't the guy over at PlayStation who's running their social media account just is surfing Twitter and goes, "Oh, look what Bungie just did. That's cool." No, this shit's planned,
bruh.
And
retweet,
bro. Let's retweet that with some cool emotes. No, it's them looking forward to deals, and if the Xbox and PlayStation and PC all expressing positive things about this, I think we're seeing cross save. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
I think they definitely support cross save. It's all done, on the cloud anyway on Bungie's side. So it's definitely open to. They just have to nail that down.
Do you think it's going to be in D2 though?
Depends how long we have.
That's
D2
right.
for.
It's going to be in D2. We're doing it. I don't know.
September
I'm gonna
comes.
say yes.
September comes with a new season pass. They're and cross
That's
save.
It. That's when we're getting.
I'm gonna say before September. I'm gonna one up.
Really?
Yep.
Let's play the game of how
indeed.
quickly can you... Wowzers.
I'll be honest.
It's
I don't think
that they split.
I don't think that this news is going to affect Destiny 2 anytime soon, personally. I feel like
I would agree with Tefty on that.
I feel like the schedule and like the timeline and the things that they've already slotted for the future is pretty locked in until at least September, obviously, with Penumbra already scheduled on the calendar.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything is truly going to change from this news for until like we get announcements of what is actually next for Destiny 2 or the franchise.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be seeing any changes for a little bit. You're probably not going to notice that anything has particularly changed, especially with the schedule being locked in, and they're definitely still sticking to that. So we'll be waiting probably a year before we see any real changes.
That's how I feel.
It's not like they're gonna kick Tess Everest off the tower and be like, put an Activision sign on her back. Like that's.
Actually, how do
you exactly call for that in one video, Briar?
I would very much like to
Yes,
see
you
Tess Everest
did.
be kicked off the tower.
What do you guys think is going to happen to Tess? Actually, do you think she's actually going to go away?
I think she's gonna stay right where she is. I mean, but
I think she's going to stay where she is, and as soon as that split is finalized, I'm going to buy a bunch of silver.
That's right.
And I think that's something that I think hasn't really been touched on, is like Activision was their, where they'd be getting a lot of their money from, and like, where is that money going to come from to pay for? Because I mean, they have 700 developers right now.
Yeah,
That's
have
they have a big team.
Yeah.
It'd be a big budget to have all those developers, and while it might be cool that they're separated from Activision, it's now then, well, how are they going to fund it? Because I imagine Destiny's a pretty expensive game to make.
Yeah, there's a big question, right? That is a huge question. Like they must have a financial plan in place so that they know they can, when's the next time they make like a big lump sum of cash? You'd think it's next September, right? Like they'll make microtransactions throughout the year, but when's like the next big release coming? You'd think next September.
Yeah, but I think they're going to push the. Oh, Goose, sorry, you're going to talk.
Well, I mean, people. I mean, are people? Can you only get the events through the annual pass?
Some yes, some
You
no.
can access to the events.
You get seasonal content, but then there's annual pass content like the Black
Like,
Armory.
you still get like
The Dawning.
Dawning, the Halloween event, like that stuff is.
You couldn't just buy Penumbra. You have to buy
No.
the annual pass to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you got to buy the annual.
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing else on the horizon until next year.
I think
Right. I mean, they got $100 million investment, but that's earmarked for a different game.
Yeah, that's a different IP.
But yeah, any money going into Bungie, I think, is really good, and they can always get more investors for Destiny specifically.
Right. They could bring in other investments. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Isn't that the issue though? With it's like, what do they give up for the investment? They give up rights, and that's like the.
They're in a
closer
position
into
now.
that Activision thing.
I think they're in a position now where they don't need Activision for what Activision provided for them. I think they have the money, and what they need now is they can broker their own deals with the High Moon Studios, the Vicarious Visions. They can get their own studios like that and be their own Activision. They're their own man.
Right.
They're cutting
their
out the
own
middleman,
woman.
basically.
They're their own person.
They're cutting out that middleman.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question mark is, are they as a development team with this franchise, has their process matured enough so they can have these realistic schedules for the player base? Like that's ultimately what it comes down to, because Activision,
Yeah, I think so.
right? Yeah, because Activision was the one saying, "I'm sorry, you got to get it out so we can play it." And now that that's gone, is their team adjusted enough to they can make those content releases?
I mean, I thought the pivot to bringing in Vicarious, did well, and and everything that I saw, Twitter, online, it worked pretty well. There were synergies. The teams seemed to be able to work remotely, but still have high communication. And Forsaken delivered great content.
It
So
did.
I mean, it was really, really good. So I think that they have good engineering talent. I think they have good producers. I think that the management of the engineering teams overall is strong. They seem to have good process. Just because my day job is senior architect for financial system software. And I deal with these things from integrating multiple teams together to do projects, and I see a lot of that on their side, agile processes and whatnot. And I have confidence, from what I saw with Forsaken, that everything else can continue that cadence.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I really do. And I hope that, like, even if they do have to push the release date of Destiny 3, which I'd much rather them push Destiny 3 out a couple years than rush it like Destiny 2 felt, because then that means that D3 is going to be like really a passion project for them, to where the pieces are together of what they really wanted and not compromised from like a we got to get this out at this date type of situation. I hope that's the case.
Can we also talk a little bit about how, I know we're all excited that Bungie's, on their own.
I think it's super exciting.
Can we talk a little bit about how this might be affecting Activision? Now, Activision itself has gone through a lot of changes. It's not necessarily on solid ground right now itself.
No.
So what are how is this going to affect them? I mean, they're not doing Skylanders anymore, right? They're
Activision.
What are their big IPs right now?
They released a cut down version of Call of Duty this year, which a lot of people really liked, but at launch anyway. But then once the microtransactions got put in, a lot of people lost interest in really fast. There's been a lot of reports that they are taking a chopping hammer over to Blizzard right now and just chopping away at projects that they don't feel like are going to amount to anything. Activision has said some things in the past that have not been kind toward Bungie. The game isn't making as much as we had forecasted or that we had expected. Right, yeah. They showed like the pillars of Activision, and Destiny wasn't on there. Now, looking back on the last year and knowing what we know today, some of those decisions make a little more sense, right? Not having Destiny be a pillar of Activision. Yeah, that's probably a wise decision if they knew this was coming.
Because which they would have known, for sure.
From a PR standpoint,
right?
Yeah, and I just think that Activision is might be struggling a little bit. I know a lot of people out there are probably thinking, why do we give a crap? Well, I think that Activision has the ability to create and bring up game titles. I don't like them. Don't like what they've been doing to, games like Bungie, but it's interesting to see how these choices or these decisions are affecting a big company like that, because it talks about the overall health of the game industry and where the investment could go for games, and it affects all of us. So
yeah. The one thing that I would actually be concerned about is Activision has a whole section of people that work for Destiny. Like, they don't work on anything else. They are Activision Destiny community manager, Activision Destiny advertisement coordinator, event manager. Do those people now just not have a job? Are they going to be picked up by Bungie? Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. Because
what's Hyman Studios working on now? What's Vicarious Vision? I thought Vicarious Vision did a fantastic job with the Warmind DLC. I really did. I thought the story was a bit weak, but a lot of the stuff in that DLC was super fun to play.
Yeah. And
to me, it's a bit of a loss. Assuming that they're staying with Activision and not going with Bungie, it's a bit of a loss seeing them not be around anymore.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. So
hopefully Bungie will be able to work out deals with them to continue it.
Hopefully.
I'm sure, like I said, they said they're beginning the process, so it's not like a clear cut.
Right.
Like suddenly it's completely split. It's like they're transitioning, and I'm sure that transition is going to be, like you said, the department in Activision wants, and then the High Moon and Vicarious Visions and all that. Like, I'm sure.
That's right. Vicarious Vision also did the PC port.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Yep.
It'd be great to see these studios continue working on, this new version, this new path that Destiny is going on, Bungie is going on. But I believe the strength in Bungie right now is to create their own relationships and make their
Absolutely.
own studios. And I feel like if we have a game that is more centered around the vision that Bungie has, that Luke Smith tweeted out saying he's happy with where of the direction Destiny is going, and they're very supportive of it.
Yeah,
I like to see that, because I don't want this game to die. Right, I want
if we
it to
follow
to
your
continue
thread,
going.
Pope, to them becoming like a publisher of not only their games but other games, like we definitely would expect to see a new launcher and then eventually a store on the PC. So right now they're in the BattleNet launcher on PC.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it'll be telling to see if they get added. Like if all of a sudden we see, okay, you can now buy Destiny on Steam or the Epic Game Launcher, you know, or one of those, or Good Old Games, or one of those, or if they create their own launcher and it has in-game, like all the purchase stuff, like created for it. Like if that's all self-contained, like from a Destiny launcher or a Bungie launcher, I think that'll be telling to what their future plans are, right?
Yeah, I think it's tough to say, honestly. It's like they obviously want control of their IP, and they want to do more IPs,
They do.
and they don't want to have the frustrations of Activision, you know, fondling their projects in certain test Eververses into it. So yeah, I think that kind of speculation is really tough. I think if anything, I walk away from the day thinking, oh man, Destiny 3 is going to be incredible. I cannot wait to play that, because
They have complete creative
If it ever
control.
comes out.
Oh, I think it will.
It may be delayed, but
Maybe
Briar,
it will.
I think Bungie is a mature studio now, based on their experiences with
They've
Microsoft.
changed a lot of stuff within their
And
studio.
I believe that they've been heading this direction since they got burned by Microsoft.
Right.
I think they've been heading this direction for a long time. And I don't think Jason Jones is a dumb guy. I think he is a very smart guy that's thinking like, you know, 15, 20 years down the road, and has built this studio to develop into what his vision is. And I am really excited to see a D3 with Bungie's creative control.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
The thing is, though, is that we've still got the rest of Destiny 2 before we get to a Destiny 3. So
Yeah.
that needs to do well, and the community needs to support it. I mean, as you say, they're indies now, so you need to support your indies. Because if think about what happened yesterday with the community and the Salt.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah. Would there be a Destiny 3 if the community continues to have those sorts of, tear jerk reactions to them experimenting,
I think actually, like, I think the real thing in question is, how is the rest of D2, the lifespan, going to play out now? Like, are we going to get annual passes every year with this type of content? Are we actually going to get a big DLC expansion again before like a D3 hits? Like,
right.
I feel like that's the biggest
we don't
mystery.
know what happened in September of this year.
Yeah.
Right. We have no idea.
Are we going to get nothing in September? Is this going to be the first time that Destiny has essentially just like a season get activated for September? Yeah.
Get a nice Rise of Iron.
Rise of Iron was, pretty good.
I think the difference though is with Rise of Iron, it sort of came out of nowhere. Like I always sort of look at Destiny like from a lore point of view, and Rise of Iron just sort of happened. Like there was no sort of like preluding to it as to that was a thing that was coming. Whereas we've got things like the Queen Mara visits every 3 weeks. We've got certain cutscenes that have shown up to reveal very big changes to certain characters. And like I remember seeing an actual tweet the other day. Someone was asking about why that character hasn't shown up this week. And I think the response was something along the lines of, well, there is stories for them in the future. That's very different into like what there's clearly, at least from a lore point of view, there's an actual plan of where that's going. So whether or not that's Destiny 2 or if that's something else, who knows?
Yeah, interesting. How would you guys?
I just feel like really good about that, the lore.
I mean, we are pretty much lore experts on this podcast.
I like to think of myself as a lore savant.
We got it dialed in. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
How would you guys feel if there was no like Forsaken 2 for Destiny 2 and it was like, let's say annual passes mixed in with D1 free updates? Like, I mean, content from D1 brought over into Destiny 2 as free updates until D3 came out. Like, where would be the point of not cool and it's cool? Like, you know, a year of that, 2 years of that.
A year.
From now?
From the end of Penumbra, because we still have technically new stuff coming until August.
I could see us. I could see us having another year of D2 being like this with a raid sprinkled in there and more stuff happening.
Like another annual pass here?
Yeah, I could see us getting another year of that, and then prepping us. The whole annual pass content releases, like the story development, will go towards the D3 launch. I could see us going that direction.
I mean, if they wanted to port D1 over to D2 and that was the content for a year, I'm not going to play a ton of it. You know, I already played D1.
Why are we talking about porting D1 to D2? I don't understand.
That was the question that Tefty asked.
No, I said in addition to, like, you know, they're taking, if they did, they took seasonal content, season pass ideas, and at the same time also brought stuff from D1 as free updates into the universe, because there's a ton of content in D1 that they totally could bring over into D2 that would help new activities and possibly new rewards to chase for people who just straight up enjoy playing the game.
Well, they kind of have been though. Like,
yeah,
we've been getting weapons brought across. There have been maps that have been like they're the same maps, but they've been re-imaged for Destiny 2. The thing is with porting is, and this is something I learned because of the 3D model project that I did, is that Destiny 2 had a very big change to the way it does rendering, and so porting is actually, you know, an actual process because they have to convert all the models and textures over to the new engine, so that otherwise they'll if you were to just load them up into the other engine, they'd look pretty crap because the lighting would be all wrong and that sort of stuff. So someone has to go in and actually touch on all those things, and I think that's why a lot of the like weapons they're coming through little bits at a time, because that's how much time it actually takes.
Real man hours.
Yeah, to pull them across,
yeah.
You know? And I think that's why, like, when they do the maps, they actually do like a new map as opposed to recycling the old one. Because I mean, you know, it might be easier to rebuild it using the bits and pieces from like, you know, like you have like a Nessus map and you have a lot of those assets that have already been made, and then you can rebuild it using those assets, as opposed to I've got all these D1 assets, I then have to update them and then make them look Destiny 2 or something, you know.
That's interesting. Yeah.
There's I mean, bringing back old content is nice, but I mean, I think of it more like an old flame. You know, the memories are great, but you know, you don't really want to live there anymore. Like when they did the what's the one where you get the sniper from the IO? What's that called again?
Whisper of the Worm.
Whisper. That mission had the secret, that had the oracles. I mean, like those moments bring back great memories, and like that to me brings me closer to Destiny when I have morsels of those fun times. You know, getting through the Vault of Glass with friends, right? They're bringing back just enough. Those are those touch points that kind of ground me back into the franchise and, you know, would carry me through. You know, that's the kind of stuff I like to see. You know, bring back, you know, a great Outbreak Prime quest. You know, those kind of moments, right? I mean, I thought that this week, harkened back to Outbreak Prime, which personally, as someone who enjoys ARGs, loves, So that's the kind of stuff I like.
I guess
just these
the reason why I bring up like D1 content is because I'm saying like if we're not getting any new content, if we're not going to get a new expansion, then could they stoke interest and keep the player base alive with what seems to be low-hanging fruit from content that they've already got in the first game? But if it does take like an insane amount of man hours just to update the assets to then rebuild the content in D2, then obviously that's out of the question. They should just make quick morsels out of what they currently have in the game.
Yeah, I think what they would have to do if they're not bringing any new like maps or places to explore, stuff like that, they have to use what's already in the game and maybe add new loot to it. Or if you take like Blindwell for just as an example, add like new bosses, new weeks to the Dreaming City with some new loot, because that way they're using stuff that's already in the game, so they don't have to pay all those man hours to make something completely different, but they can just repurpose it.
Right.
So basically do something that they've almost never done before.
They need to do that, yes.
They need to use content that's already available to them.
Yes.
Because
They really
that's the
do.
one thing that the Destiny franchise has had a really difficult problem with, is actually just, it's always been like, here's new thing, abandon new thing when next new thing comes out, and just keep on going.
Drives me crazy.
Which is why I said before that with the forges, I really hope they reuse them and, make a new exotic quest and have to go through the forges, or even add new armor set to each of the forges so they have individual pieces for them. Just reuse what you have made, because I feel like Bungie makes good stuff. They just
the potential
don't
of the infinite
use
forest, Watts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I mean,
See, they reused something there. So
Yeah, they did,
We're
right,
going
for
in the right direction.
That was like the almost never done part of that.
In Destiny 1, they did add strike loot, so all of a sudden we started grinding for specific weapons for strikes, and like they have done it before.
Yeah, they've done it with Nightfall.
They need to do it better.
Rise of Iron was basically all reused content.
Yeah, the Crota armor, that glow.
Oh,
that amazing armor set.
That was really cool.
We need good armor. That's what we need. We need that to come back.
Yeah.
Is anyone a Zelda fan here?
Yeah.
Or have played like the NC4 Zeldas?
I'm not a fucking monster, man. Of course I am. How dare you?
I was just thinking of, so you had like Ocarina of Time, and then you had Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask was something that they pushed out very, very quickly because they reused a lot of their assets, and that was a different game. So a
lot of people are hoping they're going to do that with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I mean, like they've built the work. That the hardest bit is building it. Like once you built it, and it's something we have when we do our apps, and that is a lot of stuff that I do that they might be little useless things on their own, but then I reuse it for something else, and it saves me a lot of time, and it allows me to get things happening quicker. So it's from a dev point of view, it's a very smart use of your resources, as opposed to we have to do everything brand new from scratch every time we do new content. So
let me ask you guys a question. Now that Bungie is in control of their server structure, they don't have to have like Activision like footing the bill for those. You think that we get a higher possibility of dedicated servers?
I don't think that was an Activision issue.
You don't think that was an Activision decision?
I think that was a proprietary Bungie developed network code that were like,
wait a second,
we made this really cool netcode that works for everyone.
I thought all the problems with Destiny were Activision related. Wait a second.
I honestly, I sincerely hope that moving forward with like Destiny 3, that they take instances that truly could use dedicated servers and use dedicated servers for that, and then allow their netcode to be able to be flexible enough to have peer-to-peer when it makes sense. So like strikes, it's okay for peer-to-peer. It's fine.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but if you have a comp playlist where wins count and people are getting DOSed and like lag actually becomes a factor with high-level gameplay, they absolutely need dedicated servers for consistency.
yeah, Trials of Osiris or whatever that becomes in the future needs dedicated servers. The Crucible. I feel like anything where there's like something on the line is going to need them because this DDoSing epidemic.
It's insane.
Flame.
D3 becomes PvE only.
There you go. They
Crossplay,
fixed it.
Cross save.
And I would be very
Happens.
sad about that if they just cut PvP.
Talking about servers, one of the things that I immediately thought when I heard the news was, well, what does that mean for the APIs? Because I'm willing to bet a large part of the costs of the APIs was paid for by Activision. So, and we have a pretty good idea of how much the third parties use the APIs to generate, like stats and like Destiny Tracker and that. Like they put it through the ringer.
Yeah.
To generate all that data. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that will impact the APIs. I hope they continue to do, continue to keep it running in the same sort of as. I mean, I can't think of any APIs that did do some of the things that Destiny does, and we've been really wanting for that dismantling items to sort of happen for like over a year. Like, how long has the issue been on there for? A bit.
Yeah.
on the GitHub, and yeah, it's sort of been a bit slow with new things coming to the APIs.
Do you know of any other company, developer, that works with their community like Bungie has been doing with their API? Have you guys heard of any other community group like yours? Are you alone in this, or are there other gaming communities that have similar strengths in communication with their developers?
No.
Yeah, I know there are some folks that might have their own, like, arrangements, but they wouldn't be sort of like a community-based thing. I don't think it's mostly like, more on that contractor sort of, where
the closest thing isn't a company and isn't like a company and community thing. Like, the closest thing I could think of would be like a Wowhead, where they have all the information, but all of that is like gained from people installing an app. Like, none of that's from on Blizzard's side, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really amazing data mining efforts where, like you go to like any Nintendo game, like some of the community resources around them is really amazing, but as well as like modding. Like, I don't know if anyone's checked in Borderlands lately, but there's an actual community patch now where people are making mods to the game to make it more fun or more balanced. And that's not an official capacity, but that's like amazing that those things are around. So.
Yeah, it is amazing.
I mean, I've been participating in this kind of this data extraction mechanisms with Bungie games since Halo 2. I mean, it used to be scraping the HTML off of the website. Then it turned into this XML extraction. They had they had a RSS feed. Then in Halo Reach, they had a XML JSON endpoint. I mean, like, there's just been this slow, steady evolution that Bungie has gone through on their server side to produce more data in more structured ways. And it's definitely for their consumption, but we benefit from it. And it's been something that has happened with the community and Bungie together slowly over a decade. So this is not, hey, we're going to do this for this next game and it's going to happen and it'll be great. It is a body of knowledge that is growing from Kronos on the Bungie team and his whole web staff. I just don't know of any other studio that has a similar effort over a duration of time like what Bungie's done. It's pretty unique, and they should be applauded for it.
It's cool.
Should we talk about Niobe Labs?
No,
we're getting pretty deep now. Just pass it by it.
Yeah, no. I mean, did anything important happen?
No, actually, it didn't. Nothing important happened, which might be the problem.
This is the event that I really actually wanted to talk about.
Okay, Pat,
why don't you set us
hit
up,
us up.
All right. So, setting the stage, we've had this blip on the calendar saying, "Hey, Niobe Labs is coming on the 8th." And everyone started thinking it was a dungeon. They quickly said, "No, it's not a dungeon. It's a community event." So that sets some interesting expectations. And then, we figure out, oh, this is probably going to open up the 4th forge. Like, you are probably going to have to do this to open the fourth forge. Turns out, one fire team in the world has to do this to open the forge. Oh, stakes just got raised. Now it's a world's first race. Who's going to be the team to unlock the forge for everyone? So
the one with the most stamina.
Yeah. So it's basically what turned into what a lot of people thought was going to be like, an opening quest similar to the Izanami Forge or the Gofanon Forge.
That's what I expected.
Like those. Yeah, I think a lot of people expected something along those lines. Maybe just, its own activity type thing. Although it definitely was its own activity. We're met with, a lot of people were using Outbreak Prime, and basically it was an Outbreak Prime ARG type puzzle that people had to figure out. To figure this out, you had to basically have a bunch of knowledge from all three previous forges that the Raid Secrets team racked their brains over for weeks to figure out as well. Long story short,
too late.
Yeah, long story short, 30 hours later, no one had completed the activity. Still,
nobody's
as of
completed
recording,
it still, yeah.
Yeah, as of recording the podcast, no one has completed the activity.
But they were
willing to bet that by the time this releases on Podbean, no one has completed it.
But they were presented. Bungie was presented with a problem, right?
What do you mean?
Well, there was some quests tied to the
fourth
release
forge
of the forge that had some time associated to it. So I think they were presented with a problem and had to make a decision as to releasing it and making it available to players or not. That was my understanding.
Yes. So basically, the big kicker to all this is that the 4th forge has a lot of stuff tied to it. The completion of the mysterious box. A lot of people thought Jotun, another exotic weapon, tied to it. A bunch of triumphs, and just people want to do the new thing. People want to play it. That's the big thing. So I think it's a really interesting thing to look at, because this is like two parts of the community came together here in a spectacular way. One part that is kind of their own niche community of raid secrets, and the other significantly larger portion of people that just want to fucking play activities. Like they would want to go shoot mans. And it just kind of created like this weird tempest of frustration in the community where the very very large portion just wanted to shoot mans. And a lot of people wanted to figure out puzzle. So large group of people giving suggestions that weren't really working to raid secrets type people. There's a lot of noise that goes on. It makes it even harder to try to figure out the puzzle. Then you have stuff like the puzzles itself were really, really obtuse. I went through a lot of pieces of paper yesterday, but yeah, the first 3, I have no idea how you really figured them out. The 4th and 5th puzzle were pretty good. Like, you could do it just from the picture that you saw. And then once you got to level 6, all hell broke loose. You're having to bust out diagrams of ancient sword scabbards, giving numerical values to gems that were on the scabbard, relating those to symbols, and then using that into a cipher to spell out the name of a forest, and then somehow from that you were supposed to gather that you need to stand on the butterfly symbol and everyone has to shoot forest.
Duh.
Obviously, it's very
Obviously.
self-explanatory.
Clearly.
Yeah. So the puzzles themselves have been subject to a lot of scrutiny within the community because they're just pretty off the wall. And then
That's the risk you take, though, right? It's like you want something that's going to be challenging. Like if you look at the community's reaction to the Vault, the Vault was challenging. People beat it, and they moved on. So Bungie wants to create something that's going to be challenging. They're setting this up as, like, all right, the whole community is going to get in there. There's going to be kind of a raid-like race, and whoever wins is going to unlock this fourth forge for the whole community. It's hard to test how hard those puzzles are going to be, and you've got to make them hard. Otherwise, the whole thing's going to be done in an hour.
See, the thing is, though, that this was clearly supposed to be finished in the first day.
Yeah.
I
Clearly.
really think
Clearly.
it's supposed to be.
So they and a lot of people were saying that these puzzles don't feel like Bungie puzzles, and that's because they're not. It was made by VV. So if you're feeling like maybe this puzzle doesn't feel the same as a Bungie puzzle, it's probably why.
VV being Vicarious Visions?
Yes. Yeah.
Vicarious Visions just thought we were smarter than we really are. Let's be honest.
So I think the puzzles were, they didn't seem, it always seemed like something was missing. Like we weren't being told something in the puzzle to fully understand what the answer was. Because even with the answers in front of us, a lot of people are looking at it like, okay, no, I can't figure out, even having the answer, how people came to that conclusion. It feels like something's missing.
For the first one, did you not know that line of a poem that you read in French was actually a very famous poem that also mentions a butterfly, and you can spell out butterfly by shooting butterflies.
Wings fly was the best one.
The wings fly was good, and then the one that showed a 3-section stacked maze that you could solve.
Where you have to layer them.
To me, I just hear
those two are great.
A bunch of players that are salty that couldn't wrap their head around some very obvious puzzles. I was sitting at work, in between, helping students, balance their schedules and stuff. I'm sitting here balancing all these things. I'm checking in on Twitch, watching people figure this out. And if it wasn't in sub-only mode, I would have been able to tell them what to do.
So, like was said before, the 7th puzzle still hasn't been figured out. However, Bungie decided to unlock the 4th forge. It was yesterday, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was Wednesday, so a day after.
Basically about 30 hours
They're like,
afterwards.
okay, this ain't happening.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
These morons ain't gonna figure this thing out.
So, like we said, obviously they did this thinking that it was going to get solved within say 4-6 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
Clearly is not the case. Big miscalculation right there. And so they had to auto open the doors, which is bittersweet. I mean, you got people who spent 30 hours plus in one stream trying to crack this thing, and then they give it to everyone. So there's there's the conundrum of did they respect the community time trying to solve it versus the players want to get in there. I showed up on Tuesday and I personally wasn't in the mood to try to crack my head against a puzzle like that. And also there wasn't anything else to do with Niobe Labs aside from go and shoot letters on a wall. So from from just a regular player's point of view that doesn't pay attention to Twitch and Reddit and all that, I feel like I would have loaded up the game and been like, Niobe Labs isn't this supposed to be content and rewards that I'm gonna chase? And so I feel like there was a big miscalculation right there. If the community didn't know about this puzzle and stumbled onto it, it would have been unbelievable. The amount of people being
I completely agree,
holy
but because it was on the roadmap, everybody felt entitled to getting
they should have switched
content.
It. Yeah. They should have put that the new forge was opening on the actual roadmap, and then people stumble upon this Niobe Labs and they're trying to figure it out. I think that would have been
perfect.
Better.
The funniest
it would have been
thing
an amazing
is
Bungie story.
Right. right after they opened it up, T-Rex and all the and a bunch of the other guys did it, Glad and Datto and everybody had been slamming their head up against it. You know, T-Rex, he goes into the forge as it's opened up at 2:00, and he looks up and there's a big hole in the ceiling, and he goes, "Well, why didn't we just come in through the roof?"
Yeah,
you know, and it's
all the enemies got in there somehow.
I mean, so I know that's sort of tongue in cheek. It's an expression of frustration, of not being able to solve it, of their decision to open it. Yeah. I'm sure Bungie they just put themselves in a rock, between a rock and a hard place. They obviously didn't expect us to not be able to solve it on the first day. And then they were leading up to all these other quests and stuff dependent on us being able to access content within the Forge. Yeah, I thought it was amazing to see how many community members were, behind these people and the raid secrets, and all the work that was being done was super exciting. I think you guys are absolutely right. If the content hadn't been behind it, it's not like the world's first raid team unlocking the changes on the Dreaming City, right? And being able to, and I feel like that's different. This thing. It's different than
this is the equivalent of finding the basketball court in
and it's different than the quest in in Wrath of the Machine, the
Outbreak Prime.
Outbreak Prime. It's different than that. It's the way that it was linked to content that I think frustrated people. I love the activity. I love the puzzles. I think that seeing everybody, bang their head up against it. I watched Glad, and at one point I donated to him just to tell him to go to bed. Just go get some sleep, brother. Seeing he at 30 something hours, he finally was just like,
It was after they announced that they were opening it.
Yep. And he played up until the point in which they unlocked it. And he's like, he's a purist. I mean, he's like, I'm not going in. I'm going to solve this thing before I go in. I'm going to earn it legit.
He's working on it right now, I think.
He is, yeah. I'm going to say, it feels real bad to hear that whole speech from Ada, like, "Oh, Guardians unlocking the Forge." And I'm like,
yeah.
No. And then the doors in the lab opening to go to the Forge.
Dirty.
I'm like,
I felt dirty going in there. The
Forge
is unlocked, but is it really?
There was another part of this, though, that was a little bit more underlying, and that is that this is aside. We got the exotic quest on January 29th, and then on February 5th, we got the Crimson Days. But this is kind of like the last thing on the roadmap for Black Armory, right? Like, aside from the exotic quest. And it was one room with like this puzzle, and then like the final forge. And like that didn't feel especially satisfying for like the Black Armory.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Again, like, if you take the perspective of somebody who doesn't watch Twitch and doesn't look at the YouTube videos and Reddit and all that, if you were to log in, you'd have no idea where that lab is. You'd be like,
yeah.
Or the fact that you could take your powerful. Well, actually, I guess they did say it on the thing that like your frames can be done at the new forge, but like, as a player,
this was purely catered to hardcore community,
right? But at the same time,
the entire Black Armory has been.
Yeah, I hear you, but at the same time, it's like it's an annual pass. So like, this is part of the content for the annual pass, like it was weird not having any kind of like lead up quest to the forge. Also, not that we needed another like 2 to 3 hours to unlock it for each character. Not saying we need that again, but like one or two missions where it was like, do this here in the EDZ, now go across that bridge, and now you're in the new forge. Instead, it was just like the forge is open. In fact, I didn't even realize I could just go there immediately. I thought I had to do something initially in my account.
Yeah. I think ultimately it would have been better, and of course hindsight, blah blah, if they just separated the Forge and Niobe Labs. There was a similar lead up quest to unlocking the last Forge, and then people just came across Niobe Labs and could figure it out for something cool.
The interesting thing is like
not doubt
the people that the raid secrets type of people, they love this. Like they don't. Like basically all of the negativity around this event was from people who just wanted the thing after it.
Right.
So
Which I don't mind waiting, because I feel like a lot of those people might also not be 650, and the last Forge is 650. So
La-
I feel
so
like
last
they're
Forge,
like,
yeah.
let me put one twist on it that bothered me, and I'm going to be completely real with you guys.
Okay.
I am like the father. I like this part of me. Has a hard time. It's like a father figure part of me. Like, there's a lot of pressure behind streamers like Dado and Triple and or not Dado and T-Rex and Glad and you know, you guys. There's a huge pressure behind the community members to solve this for the community, right?
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that transitioned from, oh, this is cool, I really love how they're trying to solve this, to, yeah, let's cut this shit off, right? Like, this is like, these guys are, yeah, they have 20,000 plus people watching them and they live for this, but it's fucking 30 hours and they haven't slept.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a part of me that started.
Also,
to
did we design this for like the top 1% of the top 1%?
Yeah, that's
No,
I got to
was
say,
designed
just
for raids.
I saw that transition as a casual player. I'm not going to be able to get access. You know, that was not. I was just watching it. I'm a casual observer watching, and that was my progression. And I got to a point where I'm like, and then Bungie decided to release it, and I understand logically, I understand the reasoning, but I was torn between, here's a guy that, you know, it's like watching that person that broken their leg in the last mile of a marathon of the and they're crawling towards the finish line, and you're like cheering them on, but you know they're doing permanent damage to themselves. You know, it's like that position that we were put in, and I'm observing them torturing themselves for us and them. You know, I guess they're getting subs and all that shit. I get that, but they're also feeling a whole hell of a lot of pressure to perform for us. And so I was very torn on watching that.
I also
These are
wonder
great.
how long Niobe Labs will actually be relevant content to anybody. Like, how frequently is anybody going to go in there now that the Forge is open?
They
Like,
need to
there's
reuse
the
it,
rewards
add
for
more
Niobe.
stuff.
The rewards for Niobe are what? An emblem and a shader? Like, how many people
Emblem
are
and a
going to go
ghost.
through
Emblem
that?
and a ghost.
Well, if
And
you
I
know
guess-
all the
Anyone read the lore?
answers, you can do it quickly. No, we're really bad at lore. No, we're great.
Well,
Great at lore.
I sort of made the effort to read all the lore just before it released, so I had a very different sort of expectations of what was actually going to be in the labs. So I don't know. It's sort of interesting. I mean, obviously, don't want to spoil any lore bits, but and I actually haven't actually paid too much attention as to what's going on in the labs, other than I know that there are puzzles in that, because I want to go and experience it for myself. But yeah, it's just like, to me, I would have thought there would have been something very like Dreaming City story lore wise in there, you know, based upon what I read in those.
Well, there still
Oh,
could be something.
Well, so I'm going to say this with as little spoilers as possible. Basically, actually, without any. There is a thing that you can get that you have to use in Niobe Labs, and
Yes,
it does
there is.
have some, from what I know of the lore, some very cool interactions with Ada because of it.
Didn't you delete it out of your inventory?
No, that was just
That
a
was
random
another
item.
thing.
That was another
thing.
item. Don't worry about it.
Sorry. Don't worry about that. That was something
Never mind the
different.
random item.
I got another one. It's fine.
Okay, good.
When the item says use on it, I'm like,
Yeah,
and then
Yeah,
you
I
have a
shouldn't
quest
say use.
that says
Say use.
get that thing from that forge. I'm like, well, I got it. Use. And then all of a sudden, my entire chat goes, "No, don't."
Yeah.
It's like, well, that happened 15 seconds ago due to the delay.
I
It
was
happened.
watching it. It was so funny to see your look
Okay.
on your face. It was great. No, I think that there's a lot of lessons that they learned from this.
Oh yes.
And, I don't know. I just keep looking at this as like Bungie sort of feeling their way through this thing.
Mhm.
You know.
I mean,
And-
I really want them to create these like Ready Player Ones in the game. Like, that was to me what Destiny was always supposed to be about, were opportunities for you to unlock something and be the one that did it. And unfortunately, I mean, there's only so many of those. Only so many, you know. I mean, everybody wants to be president, but only 44 or 45 have done it. You know, what I mean, like, you know,
44.
There's so many people playing the game, but I mean, eventually, I mean, only a few people do it. But I mean, this is the kind of stuff I want. You know, I may not be able to do it. I've tried, you know, and it's failed. But that bitter taste is gone the next week when you get an exotic or something new comes up, or the next, you know, part of the quest unlocks. But I mean, I like these things, and I would really want them to keep trying to make what I would call, you know, these Ready Player One moments where you climb the mountaintop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm happy that Bungie did something like this. I love puzzles from Bungie so much, and they've definitely learned not to lock content behind these really difficult puzzles. Because I think that's the thing with all previous puzzles, is that there's a bunch of other stuff for you to do in game, and then if you find the puzzle and you want to do it, you can go and do that. It's having people sit and wait for this thing to be cracked before playing the rest of the content.
Like the Oracle puzzle with Whisper. That was a really cool, like, oh, there's also a Oracle puzzle in addition to getting this like secret Whisper quest. That is so cool.
Yeah.
That stuff is awesome. We all love those things. When you get content behind people needing to solve a puzzle, it becomes a big yikes. And in the future, if they want to do something like that, if they want to have like a community-driven push to unlock stuff, they should make it so literally everybody's contribution is being counted towards the unlock. Like, kill 1 million dreg, get 1 million sniper shots, like clear out all the stuff out of the EDZ in this amount of time or whatever, and then the community as a whole has actually pushed the tides over to unlock a certain type of thing in there. Like that, I feel like that's, personally, from my perspective, I feel like that's more inclusive for the community. Like, people feel like they're putting in their effort to like unlock something in the world.
I mean, Whisper created great Sherpa moments. You know, there's so many people I saw streaming, carrying. You know, I mean, that was really fun, which harkened back to D1 experiences. You know, just bring more of that content.
Yeah. Yeah, where's our next Whisper mission?
Well, they
It's in
sort of
Niobe
hinted
Labs.
it with the Penumbra, didn't you? In that last
Penumbra's
photo.
going to be this, but like the
Every
whole
week.
thing.
Get ready, Glad.
You're going to have to know Hebrew. You're going to have to know ancient freaking Egyptian.
This is where we learn the high
everything.
techs right here. This is where it comes in.
You're gonna have to play Destiny while looking into a mirror so you can see the reverse.
Right.
To get the blacksmith title, you will actually have to become a blacksmith.
You got to play with an inverted mouse.
Yep.
You're going to have all
I would
of
prefer to become a
IMDb in your
blacksmith
brain.
than do the puzzle, honestly. I'm really bad at puzzles. I apparently need to get better at these puzzles. I need to learn more about France and forests and swords.
French cutlery is apparently was a big part of solving this one.
Pope, are you muted?
Oh yes, but it was really funny and entertaining while I was talking.
You always think you are.
You guys want to do some Twitter questions?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Unichronic says, how long until Bungie signs a deal with EA?
Never.
Come on, that was funny.
Right around when D3 needs to be, get out the window. The third time
Destiny
D3
19.
is delayed, they bring on E3.
Yeah, why is nobody talking about Bungie putting Destiny on the Origin app? Come on, guys.
I would like that because I have the Origin
You
like
do.
yearly thing
The
where
premiere?
I get like all the games they put on Origin. Yeah, premiere.
Yeah.
Beef Castle says, let's say Bungie has just taken the ultimate true serum. What does the TWAB say tomorrow?
We freed, bitches! Sorry.
It says, fuck you, you're
Yeah.
cool, fuck you, I'm out.
You're cool. You can come with us. Here's a 6-pack. Let's go.
You're not wrong.
Mr. Goodbite says for
I love these questions that Breyer asks just for his own ability to answer it, and then he moves on to the next one.
Cherry picked, right?
Like,
what's
he's
the
already
hardest
got-
part? I actually try not to do that. What's the hardest part of working with the tools Bungie gives you? The hardest
Bungie gives
part.
us tools.
Maybe.
We
Well,
make our own
I
tools.
it's not. I don't find it hard working with Patrick at all. I think it's something that I struggle with at times.
I'll
But
give you that one.
ultimately,
That one
I
was
push
good.
through.
That was
Wow, that hurt
That one
me.
That was
good.
really good.
Oh man.
Cutscene.
All right, lack of tools, possibly the hardest part of working with the tools.
I suppose the hardest part is it's less the tools that they give us and more trying to explain to someone when they ask for this feature in an app that we can't do because there's no way to actually do it. I think that's the hardest bit because it's sort of indirect, but I think that's the hardest part because you've got to try and translate that to something that makes sense. Like people think it might really be easy to put something in, but you know.
Why is it so hard to just collate every single drop that people get? I mean, you're refreshing DIM all the time. You're seeing what goes into people's inventories that's new, so you know what activity they're doing, and then you just like figure out, hey, that's the drop rate of that item, and you can list that. It's so easy.
It is. It is. They should come join the team.
Oh man.
Mohegan 9 says, reminders, thank Guardian Radio for their podcast. That's right, Guardian Radio is going down. It's been a long running
It is.
podcast.
It's great, man. I love those guys too. Maybe Brian, I can share a story about them, like their origins and mine, really. If you guys haven't heard, Guardian Radio is shuttering their doors. They're stopping their podcast after they've got one more show happening this week. And back when I started help start Dads of Destiny, we were trying to find a way of communicating to our audience, our just inside of our clan only, right? We weren't thinking about something more broader than that. And I reached out to Mark and the founder of Guardian Radio, and I said, I want to do this thing for my clan, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do this. And in my clan was 60,000 people. I said, I need to find the way to do this. And he said, well, come here. I'm going to help you out. He put us on his iTunes account. He hooked us up with all the connections to how to host our podcast. And he shouted us out on Guardian Radio. And that was my first introduction to Guardian Radio, a selfless guy, a group of people, Mendicus and Remy, and then as more people came through and other people joined the crew, it was always about helping the community, and I really appreciated that approach. And it's something that set a standard for me in how I was going to approach podcasting. And later on, when I did Aim Assist podcast and then moved on to Planet Destiny, and that is ultimately the ethos that's founded DCP. And so I can trace that back, that giving, that communal, supportive mindset back to Guardian Radio, and I have a lot to thank for that, and I have a lot to be thankful for in their mentorship. So. I'm going to be sad to hear them off the air. I respect and understand that decision. But I, as I said on Twitter, I really want them to know that a lot of what they instilled in the community and that standard that they set is going to go forward with a lot of really good podcasts that this community has. Yeah. And so in a lot of ways, they're still living on with what we do. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet those guys for the first time after listening to their podcast since Destiny came out. They were doing their podcast even before Destiny came out, but right upon starting to play Destiny, I started looking for a podcast, and theirs was the first one I found. So even before we started doing this podcast, I was listening to Guardian Radio. It was a very entertaining podcast with very interesting takes on the game, And going down to Guardian Con and meeting those guys was actually a highlight of my Guardian Con, is going to meet like the Guardian Radio guys. Because I listen, everybody has that, right? Is you listen to a podcast so much that you almost feel like you're part of that community. Like you have an emotional attachment to the people on the podcast. And while I see it from this side of the podcast, I also know it from being a listener to a podcast, and meeting the guys from Guardian Radio is one of those moments for me.
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome.
They also, same question, any news on Guardian Con or PAX West?
So I can also say that we are going to be having the hosts at different times throughout the year. This year, we'll be having the hosts of Guardian Radio as guests on our podcast.
We can't do that. They're the competition.
Not anymore.
Fire is cold, guys. God damn.
He is stone cold. That is absolutely wrong. They are not the competition anymore. And so it's news on Guardian Con. We aren't going to be going to Guardian Con. We put out a notice. Unfortunately, it just conflicts with our schedules. It's the July 4th weekend. It's difficult. A lot of us had family plans already. And we got a lot of outpouring from the community about creating something that we can do to meet up with our fans this year. And if it's not going to be Guardian Con, what could it be? And a lot of, with Watts and Patrick already living in Seattle and PAX West happening there, we thought that was a natural next choice. So we are going to be doing something pretty awesome that we are going to be announcing very soon here at PAX West on Saturday and Sunday with a meet and greet. It's going to be a lot of fun. I highly recommend, if you have any chance, to head over to PAX. There's Bungie always does something there. There's a ton. It's a great place. But that being said, we are still very much involved and supportive of what Guardian Con is doing. It's in no way a reflection of what they are doing. It's just us trying to find a way to meet up with our fans and access to the next logical choice. So there's going to be more information to come, and just make sure to stay tuned. We got some pretty cool announcements coming.
You coming to the States, Lowlines?
I haven't got a passport.
Oh, well.
Well, don't worry. If you, I guess if you head over to Mexico, you can just walk across. Apparently.
So, Briar, how about that next question?
Hold up.
Yeah, let's do
Just
that.
want to clarify, though. I just want to clarify. I don't think we were talking about having something inside PAX West, but in relation to the dates of PAX West.
Yeah. So what we were thinking is that, if you're already coming out to PAX West, or you're having plans, or you want to go to PAX West, there'll also be this DCP meetup for you guys to go to and hang out. So it's going to be separate from PAX. It's just happening around the same time. So if you can't get tickets and all that stuff, you can come out, you can hang out with us. It's going to be awesome. So
just want to get that clarity out there for people.
Yeah.
Yes, there's more to come, and more of we will have a presence at PAX West on the floor.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. For sure.
It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. We didn't want to go a whole year not being able to meet you guys, not being able to be together as DCP. So, good doing it.
Just stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff coming up. I'm excited. It's going to be dope.
Yeah. It's gonna be awesome.
Josh Haig says, I have one since Activision and Bungie. Oh, okay. I have one since Bungie and Activision split up, and Bungie is taking Destiny back. Do you guys still think there's going to be a Destiny 3, or are they just going to keep on adding more things to Destiny 2 and continue growing it for now?
Ooh.
I think there'll be a D3 eventually. I just don't know when.
Yeah. I think it's pretty safe to assume D3 is on the horizon, because feels like they want to change things fundamentally about the game. That's the impression I get from Bungie, is that they would like things to be kind of different as well, how the fundamentals are, and that kind of requires a whole new refresh.
They're definitely moving in the battle royale direction. It's going to be D3 battle royale.
I thought they were going to make a card game.
BRs are on the way out. It's all
A
about
BR
the
card
resurgence.
game.
The BR.
Ooh.
So you're saying I
What about a
finally get to
Netflix
use my
series?
ship, right?
To play cards on, yes.
It's actually
Have a
I'm
good
gonna play
card
Star
game.
Fox, Destiny. Come on.
they're gonna merge Destiny and Eve together, and there we
My
go.
favorite spreadsheet simulator with my
Yes.
favorite shooter.
Yes, two genres that have never properly been ported together.
I
Hey,
was
we have an
actually just
Excel
watching a
export
speed
game,
run
too.
of Halo Reach,
Mm-hmm.
and I was watching the ship battle part of that, and I was like, "Oh man, I forgot about that part. That part was fun."
That was
Being able
cool.
to space battles in Halo.
Yeah, and
That
Halo
was
Reach.
cool,
Remember
man.
that?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
cool.
A couple missions. that
And,
were
and
light
you
on
know
the
what?
flame.
Those ships were pretty fun to navigate. They did a good job.
You know,
Yeah.
I only want ship battles if I can get off my ship, jump on their ship, and go in and shoot them all.
I'm with
No.
Watts on this. I'm on the Watts bandwagon here.
You can just play Battlefield.
It's not the same. I want space magic.
All right.
The William Jacob says, "When will level 7 be beaten?"
I don't honestly like looking at what they're talking about with the puzzle. It seems like people have no freaking clue.
Somebody will brute force it though, eventually.
Yeah, the thing that's really hard about this is you have to restart from level 1.
No
can't
checkpoints
just-
is just
It's
dumb.
yes, it's not good because imagine if you could just sit there and be like, okay, guys, crazy idea. Let's just try it. Jump in, try it. No, okay, next one. You can't do that. You have to really commit to like 2 to 3 before you
They
start
should
the
at
whole
least done a
process.
checkpoint at like level 6 or
Yeah,
you know, something.
totally.
Set
Have it like work like
checkpoint
escalation
somewhere.
protocol, where if you don't pass one, you go back to the last one.
Yeah.
Guys, wouldn't you prefer to have to run through the entire raid from the beginning every time you wipe at Riven?
No.
Wouldn't you prefer that?
Oh,
Come on.
man. I think this whole story would have been different had it not taken 20 minutes to get back to where they were after like trying one thing.
I think it would have been solved if people could just sit there and just keep trying thing after thing after thing after thing. But you can't. Do that.
1K Entertainment says, as someone who hasn't bought the annual pass for season 5, season 5 really feels underwhelming without vendor resets, factions, and one gear being brought forward. Do you think Bungie will ever address these issues, or will they keep focusing on endgame content more?
Man.
I'm going to take a hard stab and say they're probably going to keep focusing on in-game content more.
That
I agree with you.
disappoints me, honestly. I don't know what they're
I'm
probably
with
going to
Tefty
focus
on
on,
this
but like
I've heard you explain
Yeah.
this, Tefty, and I go for it, man. This is like
not having things just feel different out in the world drops and all that is honestly it really kills the mood for a new season for me. Like it just feels like Forsaken launched and we have the same content, and now we're playing a few new endgame activities with the same rewards from random drops, and like that needs to change. There really does need to be there needs to be new armor and there needs to be new weapons. I know it's an investment to have man hours reshape and curate that content, but that really makes the gameplay loop enjoyable. When you've already done that flashpoint a ton of times, when you've already seen all those legendaries drop over and over.
And we've talked about this before, that the vendors, not only just like a curated reset of the roles, right, of the weapons that they offer, for that, why that is supportive of casual players. Like that's something that has been in the past a supportive feature where you could, save up. It quickly becomes not usable or not needed for the average player, but a decent palindrome that you could take into PvP was a godsend for certain players that didn't necessarily play as much, because they could go and they could work towards it and buy it off the shelf, right? And so that reset of those roles was really important for casual. So for it to be gone really affects them. And second, we had ornaments for vendors, and it doesn't need to be, reskinning the vendor gear is something that's interesting. You being able to wear an armor piece that you could change around the the specs on it and put on different ornament on it. It's almost the closest thing we have to transmog, and without it, it was really, I felt a loss for the resets.
Yeah, I really hope they like adjust that course and don't just only focus on like end game activities. Like obviously I like the end game activities, don't get me wrong. I've had a great time forging new weapons and shaming people with all my god roll kindled orchids. It's great. I just got another one. It was amazing. But seeing the same, I'm not gonna say it. Seeing the same,
I want to know what it is.
It was
let him finish his thought.
Yeah. Seeing Through Fire and Flood over and over, and Go Figure, and whatever the Smuggler with the same roles that I've seen over and over for the past 3 months isn't exciting for all the world activities. And also when we had to rise above 600 power level, seeing the exact same drops that we've already been seeing for the past 3 months sours that experience. So when they refresh that loot pool, it makes things interesting.
Agreed. I like it.
Yeah.
And it's for the average player who isn't going for that, doesn't have time to commit, and is just doing the daily missions on a location and getting location materials to trade into the location vendor. That is low-hanging fruit for them to go get something new.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to say that they need to hit a better medium, because right now it's all on endgame and all on kind of the more dedicated player. I think just hitting a better sweet spot to make it not just all
like
that.
They threw the baby out with the bathwater, man. It's like you see
Black
this reaction.
was that, right? It was a huge let's try this thing and see how it goes and then adjust from there.
I've said this over and over again. I love the fact that they're trying new stuff, and that I feel like the game is in the best place it could possibly be from where it was when it launched.
Oh yeah.
That being said, let's dial it back from 1,000. 997 is all I'm asking for. Just 1,000 maybe is just a little too much. Just a little bit here. The average guy, the little guy, maybe just a little bit. That's all I'm saying. Because right now I feel like, the reason why I said I couldn't be on any podcast. I don't know I can't keep up with all this stuff.
Just sit in the labs and do the puzzle, Pope.
Yeah.
It's easy. You can sit there. You can eat while you're doing it. You can Wikipedia stuff while eating.
I like the game, and I'm not trying to casualize it. I'm just saying that they threw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's dial it back.
Yes.
Salty Tree says, do you think Bungie will ever bring back theater mode?
Oh my god, I love theater mode.
I hope so. I don't know.
I would
it's high
adore
on the
for it.
development.
I don't think they're going to, but it was really cool to see the Halo montages and clips that came from it, and all this cool stuff, the explosions, and then they rotate the camera around like this epic attack, and
that stuff's awesome. Brimbo Ryan says, with Bungie splitting from Activision, I do still think we'll see Destiny 3. Do you think this opens the possibility of it being the final main game and everything could just be built on top of that?
Isn't this the exact same question that was asked before?
I don't know.
It's a little different. Maybe you should do the questions next week, Patrick.
Yeah.
And it's positioned.
Patrick, you're doing questions.
It's positioned differently because the idea is,
don't do it, Brian.
Could D3 be the main game that is continuously added upon?
Yeah,
I think so.
It could be.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would prefer that.
I would much prefer to have a RPG MMO experience and then keep adding to that experience than just throwing everything out and starting all over again. Get a really good solid base and then keep adding on top of it.
And let's go to some different solar systems. Andromeda maybe. We were saying Goose?
Do you remember, so when Rise of Iron, when D1 was done, the manifest file was 40 megabytes? It was huge, right? I mean, there were so many items in it. It was taking a long time for us to download. I'm saying if you have a game and they keep adding to the same game, over time there will be so much stuff in that game it impacts our apps. Because the size of the database that we have to draw down, it grows. It becomes something an issue because you download that 60 megabyte file. Every player that uses the apps downloads that file. I mean, it's just bandwidth charges grow. It's a great idea. They'd have to just. It's a good time to kind of break the game and move to a new one. It helps other parts of the system. It's not, the only thing.
No, don't squeeze me apart. See, that's why they call me Sparkle Hearts.
Thanks, Pope.
Animu Pepper says, when is the last time you went to the farm?
Oh
God,
boy.
I forgot about the farm. Wow.
Actually, I go to the farm every time I need to test out my streaming. Like I make a change to anything. I always like put an elastic band on my controller and have my character running circles around in the farm because like I'm not going to get killed by anything. And the grass is actually like really hard for the streaming rig to like render properly. So it's like a good test
There you go.
of streaming. So every time I make a change to my streaming rig, I put an elastic band and I start running circles around in the farm.
Guys, do you remember that one time that it was Sunday and we had access to the farm for like 2 hours or something?
That's right.
I spent more time on the farm in that section than I ever actually have
In game,
Destiny
right?
launch.
Yeah.
People were like holding
I do
out
actually
there.
need
There's
to
like-
go to the farm on PC. I need to go. I have a quest to go to talk to Tyre Banks.
Oh,
There were like doors there that were blocked off. We're like, ooh, maybe this will be a secret in here.
little did we know that place was going to be dead.
Yeah. Real Good Murph says, how many of you are going to play Anthem?
I think
I
all
am,
of us,
definitely.
right?
Definitely.
Pope, you need to start it on PC because I assume that's where we're all going.
We're gonna have cross save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on the Switch. Sorry, guys. Nintendo Switch.
Did you hear Warframe is coming to the Switch?
Already is.
It's on there now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's crazy
That's
to have
awesome.
that kind of game on a Switch.
Yeah.
Like that just
Right?
blows my mind. That's a child's dream of being able to just like be in bed when your parents are sleeping and just grind for stuff.
Seriously.
Grind and stuff? Or I think there's an always online requirement, so you can't really like I guess you could play it on the plane if you have Wi-Fi on the plane though. Like
People are
or in
gonna be
the car.
so mad at you eating all their plain internet.
It's hilarious.
Daniel Salinas says, would you have kept the forge closed until the lab's puzzle was solved? You personally.
It's really hard because of that one step that requires you to do something this week. That's the part that
Yeah.
I struggle on with that. I mean, I would much prefer for it to be solved to be unlocked.
Or Watts, what if it's still not solved in 3 weeks? And then you're
There you go. What if it takes? There you go. If it takes longer than a week, then it's easy.
I would have.
Easy problem solved.
I would have given a clue.
Yes.
yeah, that's what
I
they
would have
did.
instead of just straight up unlocking it, just be like, guys, we're gonna drop a hint every hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I would have gotten more engaged in it and dropped a clue.
Yeah.
I think given that what was announced today, they probably had to, because I don't think you'd want to announce something big like a separation from Activision in the middle of the community having a meltdown about not being able to
Yeah.
solve it. So I
That
think
would
that
be
was,
pretty
that
funny,
was
though.
somewhere they would have been pretty tired. And,
Even Activision
I mean-
hates it. They're splitting up now. Unbelievable.
Oh, that was the
Well-
funniest tweet of the day I saw. Is that even Activision can't get unlock the Niobe Lab.
Well, that's
Ringo-
why they actually spit, Briar. You didn't know that?
Yeah, Ringo the
Activision-
Dingo says. Go ahead, Pope.
No.
I thought you were done. With
I really want to hear about Ringo the Dingo.
Okay, Ringo the Dingo says, if you could hold any fantasy fiction creature as a Chihuahua-sized pet, what would you choose?
You know what I'd choose, so I'm gonna stay out of this one.
Riven. I want Riven.
Riven would be a
Falcor.
good one. I was thinking Riven too.
So cute.
Falcor would just be like a ferret, right? That could fly.
No, it's a dog ferret.
Okay.
Joey, our dog, looks like Falcor, actually.
Really?
Yeah, we're always every now and then being like the never
Is he
ending
Chihuahua
story.
size?
Yeah, he's a Shih Tzu.
Wow.
No, he's not. He's not Chihuahua size. No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's smaller. Actually, my bad. I don't know what I'd want.
I wouldn't mind having a ghost, frankly. Like, you never have to carry around your keys. You always get every door unlocked. You got to wait a little while, but
Except the lab.
What was that little figure animal from?
Masturbation would get weird, I guess, but
That was really awkward. All right, so remember what was that Disney movie where this little boy found the chrome spaceship and they had all the weird animals inside of it?
Flight of the
Navigator.
Flight of the Navigator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Navigator.
The little animal that was just like finger sized.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Flight of the Navigator, kids. Watch it.
It's great.
Justice Beaver says, so since Activision is seemingly bowing out and giving Bungie full control, what is your ultimate sandwich? What kind of bread are you using? What's your sandwich going to be made of? And what are you saucing that bad boy with?
Wow.
It doesn't matter as long as my mom made it, because as long
Oh
as
my
your
God.
mom makes a sandwich, it's just fucking delicious.
As
That's
long as you
not
don't
true.
make it.
That's not.
Maybe
it's
your
not
mom,
true.
not my mom.
Hold up. Watts,
Not
I
true.
hate making
Watts
my
is
own
on
food.
it right here. As long as you're not the one actually assembling the sandwich, that thing
Uh-huh.
no, more than likely is going to be incredible, especially when it's
Yeah.
unexpected.
Are you
Unexpected
talking about
sandwiches
real
are nice.
sandwiches?
Yeah.
I mean, versus fake ones.
Activision Bungie sandwiches.
Theoretical
Yeah.
sandwiches.
I mean,
My favorite sandwich is a tuna club on rye. It's just my favorite fucking sandwich. It's just delicious.
That
wait.
sounds good.
You're adding this with sexual interaction as well. So we're eating while we're making love to some. I don't. You're adding more variables to this
Calls it
question. I don't
making
understand
love.
it.
It's peanut butter with mayo and banana.
Yikes!
That's good.
You say
it's not-
mayonnaise?
I'm confused now.
You put chunky peanut butter on one side. You put
Mayonnaise on the other?
slice band, or Miracle Whip if that's your jam. I'm not going to
Oh.
judge you on.
No, it
Oh,
doesn't
that's
matter.
worse.
That's not where we're going wrong here.
Good God!
The choice of Miracle Whip or mayo is not the problem.
And then you put banana, sliced banana in between.
Jesus.
It's like,
This sounds
so
like
good.
somebody lost a bet.
It is great. Peanut
like a
butter,
nightmare.
mayo, banana.
Oh my God!
Just try it.
I
My
will
favorite sandwich by far. If a place does it right, a Reuben is my favorite sandwich.
not.
It's my
A
favorite.
Reuben is the good one. Reuben is a good one.
But it's got to be like they got to use that right the right kind of bread. and-
Reuben it's a risky one too, because I feel like the difference between a good Reuben and a bad Reuben is like
Yeah.
it's a bigger variable between
It's a
like
huge variable.
it really is. But
Yeah.
when you
There's
get a
place
good one,
over by
it
my-
is
there's
really
a place
good.
over by my house that's been around for 200 years. They make a Reuben there that you just I don't know.
Yeah,
You got to know the place too to get it.
yeah,
Mm.
totally.
Secret menu item. Love it.
I
Anybody else
feel
got
like
any-
there's got to
sandwich?
be some kind of like fried spider sandwich.
Oh God.
No,
Fried spider?
I'm so glad your
Stick
audio
that in your
cut out
mayonnaise.
during that.
I was just waiting for low lines. The China,
I'm staying out of this conversation.
No.
I think that's the safest bet.
I mean, they must.
There's got to be a Vegemite sandwich that you're just all about,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I like promote over Vegemite, but I don't make a sandwich out of it.
Huh.
That's like last resort.
What about okay? How
all we
about
have is yeast extract.
Vegemite, mayo, banana, and peanut butter? How about that?
with Nutella. With Nutella.
Yeah, with a Nutella.
It's the
queso.
mayo. The
There
mayo
you
is
go.
fucking everything
Oh,
up
I know it's
here.
awful. Jesus.
Oh man, mayo sustains.
Mm-mm.
I don't
Keeps your bread waterproof, so it doesn't get
Mayo
soggy when it's
sustains like in the direct sunlight. That's what it sustains.
Oh
Like, you
my
talk to
God.
me about like a ham sandwich. Okay, put some mayo on it. That's fine. Peanut butter, bananas. No, mayo does not belong with these things.
try it. It'll
The
surprise
only
you.
thing I agree with you, Goose, on
Yeah.
is that mayo is a better alternative than ketchup with fries.
What the
or together.
fuck did you just say?
I said I would eat mayo with my fries any day before I ever touch that filthy scum of a thing called
I'm so glad we
ketchup.
kicked
I
you off
love
of this
ketchup.
podcast.
Oh man,
Why quit again?
the great sandwich debate.
Blazik18 just said, asks, what sport? You got me flustered, Pope. You got me flustered.
We're all flustered, man.
I've never heard.
Can't handle
I've never
this.
heard something so ridiculous. Blazik18 says, what sport would be the funniest to add mandatory amount of alcohol to?
Ooh.
Curling.
That would be a good one.
I mean, isn't that how it already is?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people get drunk playing curling. All right.
I definitely
Go-
would.
What's the thing called with the ball toss? The toss, the spin it around and let it go? That sounds
Shuttlecock?
dangerous and hilarious.
Yeah, shot put.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Anything with spinning, I think, would be good.
I'm gonna say pole vaulting. Just pole
Pole
vaulting.
vaulting would be pretty great.
Everything
Javelin?
just sounds dangerous, man. All of it.
Yeah, it does.
You gotta flop over and snap your neck.
I like the ice idea, though. I think curling would be a good one.
What's
Yeah.
the national sport of Australia?
Running away from
Rugby?
snakes and spiders.
I'd say football.
Like, you know,
well, maybe
the
cricket,
Chargers, the
I was gonna say
Patriots.
cricket.
Yeah,
Right.
cricket's international, but football's sort of like.
Can you get drunk and play
So
cricket?
you guys are Raiders fans?
Pope,
I'm a Raider
Pope's
fan.
going
I
deep
didn't
on the
do
American football joke there.
Oh, sorry. He meant soccer, right?
No. For us, the football's just one where it's like a.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. It's a totally different game. I don't know.
Is it like rugby?
Rugby?
rugby? Something separate.
Okay.
Oh.
Mm.
Australian
What
rules.
the
doesn't
hell
have,
is this
like,
game?
The oval.
That's like it's
Doesn't-
less players than like typical rugby, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you have 15. You have 15 players on the field per side.
Is that more or less?
I think that's more.
Yeah, I think Australian rules. Is
It's
less.
like football, but without pads and played with by real men.
We're gonna have to get a follow-up question.
We know, clearly, we know as much about sports as we do about Destiny lore.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's good correlation.
Taco says, "Who would win in a fight? Pat and his army of collective 15 tons of crawfish.
Whoa, tons now.
Tefty, it's tons now. Tefty with his midnight Q, or Briar in his prime wrestling condition.
Honestly, those crawdads sound pretty terrible. 15 tons?
of
Tons.
crawdads.
I don't think
care who
anyone's
you
beating
are.
that.
No.
That's a horde,
I mean, I think
man.
midnight Q is going to be the guy with the gun is going to be pretty effective, but I mean, there's only so many bullets.
Gonna run
in
out of
that
ammo. Those
Is
crawdads
it
ain't
AP
dropping ammo
shotgun?
packs.
it's like a wall of crawdads.
Yeah.
right?
All right.
Do they
All right.
explode when you shoot them? Because if so, that would
Goose.
be bad.
Crawdads have claws. What is the weapon of a crawdad?
Let's be honest. Nobody calls it crawdads, but people who live in other parts of the country. If you're from the south, or you're calling it crawfish. Like,
Yeah,
let's-
It's crawfish.
Okay,
Thank you.
crawfish.
Okay, Goose. Since you live in the South,
Yeah.
you've been to Crawfish Boil.
Roll Tide.
All right.
They got red tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. It's a football
Oh.
thing.
Football.
My bad. Oh, more
15
football.
pounds of crawfish.
Oh, more sports.
Ooh.
15
Okay.
pounds of crawfish. Acceptable
Oh, yeah, we
serving
need to ask
size.
this.
Yeah. For yourself,
What is
not for a family event.
Just
For
you.
yourself.
Single
You go-
serving for
Nobody
you.
answered.
Hold on, you go to the place and you're like, oh, I'm feeling crawfish
You're
today.
there.
Do you
You're
say
ordering-
15 pounds?
Well,
15
Roll it up.
pounds?
You know-
What's a personal size amount of crawfish that you're
So-
ordering?
so here is a record, and
Okay.
mine would be like 2 of these piled high. You know, it would be quite delicious.
No,
just
yeah.
for yourself.
So you're standing there at the menu. You're about to order your crawfish.
You don't.
What shit? How much crawfish do you order in pounds to sit
I mean-
down and enjoy by yourself?
I don't know. The last time I did, it came in like a, and I bought 3 of them. I mean, the sack was like this big.
Hmm.
Okay, and you just the boil was 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
we were just dumping them in. I mean, so you just buy a lot.
Wait, was this you
Buy
had
as much as you can.
help? People eating it?
There was probably like, I don't know,
No.
See,
no.
100 people.
oh, this
We
doesn't
need
count.
to- no, no,
This
no,
doesn't
no.
count.
Other people
It's
will
your
eat this?
own serving. Is 15
Yeah.
pounds
How much
of
is
cooked?
a normal amount of crawfish
This
for
is a
you to
very
eat in
important-
one
5
sitting.
to 7 pounds, according to crawfishboiled.com.
10.
10 pounds.
So not 15
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
15
15 would be
hurt,
too many.
But
It's gonna hurt.
Are you going to
see?
eat the sausage? Are you going to eat the potatoes? How much corn do you like?
Yeah.
I mean,
so
a
there's
lot to
other
it.
things
So-
at this crawfish boil.
Oh yeah.
So what you're saying is it's
Sausage
not
goes in
normal
something.
to consume 15 pounds for yourself in one sitting.
You can. It's just going to take a little while, and don't drink a lot.
There's restrictions. As in
I mean,
it's not the usual.
Normal.
are you going to suck the head?
Fuck yeah.
You better, otherwise you're not getting.
How
it,
far are you
know.
going? All right. Are we just eating the body? Or are we?
I'm not paying. For
How
dinner.
far are you
Yeah,
going,
Holtz.
Briar, with this sucking of the head?
Yes.
I don't know yet. We're gonna find out though. That's a journey we'll take together.
Oh. Check it out. Oh, my wife just made me a peanut butter banana. and mayo
Holy
sandwich.
crap.
Oh boy.
Can you
Alright,
open
up.
that
Let's see
top
this
slice?
thing.
Can you
Don't
see?
show
can
that
you
on
show
stream,
us-
please. That's a TOS
I'm going to
violation.
describe it. He is now
There's
pulling
mayonnaise
up
in there?
a white bread.
Yeah,
this is
mayonnaise on the
mayo.
top piece of bread.
Mayonnaise.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, she came in
sorry.
holding her nose.
No.
She did not appreciate. Hey, babe, can you do this
Goose,
real quick?
Goose, man. Like, I'm so sorry. I will go a lot of places in the
Oh,
direction
no.
you're heading.
Mm.
Oh, he's now, ladies and gentlemen, the man has just taken a bite of a peanut butter, mayonnaise, and banana
This is
on
so
white
good.
bread
Oh,
sandwich.
God.
You are a sick man.
Mm.
That is the last
I'm
time.
gonna get some more of that later.
Okay. This is not okay.
Red Queen 98 says, "How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll?"
15 pounds.
I don't think anybody's in the mood to lick anything after what we just saw.
I
still
can't
nauseous.
entertain that question right now.
I think the whole food discussion has been ended.
Pat's gone. Pat's also wearing pants, which is very strange. He normally wears
He's wearing
shorts.
pants?
It's very strange. He's wearing like black jogger pants.
Is it actually cold in Seattle?
Yeah, but he only ever wears shorts.
Yeah, this is the
A
first
very
time I've ever-
specific cargo shorts specifically.
Huh.
We need to interrogate him when he gets back. This is strange.
And I also want to know how he's measuring the poundage of his licks.
You
Like,
weigh your
is it-
tongue.
Right? No, no.
To see
Is
how
it,
much
is
the
it,
tongue
is it
weighs.
tongue force? Because there's a force
Like
of
the
pounds,
torque?
pounds of force.
Does saliva
The torque of
production
tongue?
come into play here?
There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. He just blows off like 15 pounds of licks and then walks away.
Yeah,
He
unbelievable.
needs to explain that.
William PB says, "All of you, Pope, Dim, Lowly included, get loaded into a Fortnite on PC. Is it just you? It's just you 7 in a battle to the death. Who wins and why?" So all of us on this call get loaded in a Fortnite battle on PC. Who wins? Why?
Does anyone here actually play Fortnite?
No.
I have played it.
So we'd lose.
I have played it, but not
I've-
for
yeah,
a year.
I've played it for-
longer than a year.
I'll fly the plane.
Yeah,
a year.
it was about a year ago last time I played it.
So
I-
no one plays Fortnite.
Can I connect my Scuf to the PC?
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Then-
use a
then
controller.
yes, I say I would win.
My primary role in Battle Royale for my squad is to carry loot until I. And then I've
Drop
completed
down
my
there.
cycle, and then I rebirth.
You're like Briar on the plane ride when we crash.
Yes, Briar is our emergency
Sons of
food
bitches,
supply.
you're not eating me.
He's
I'm gonna
storing.
slather myself in
he's-
mayo and peanut butter, you motherfuckers.
Dude, unbelievable! Don't you dare! That's awful.
You better
You wouldn't
start
do it.
eating right, Briar.
Yeah, you-
We need you healthy. Well, not too healthy.
No. No,
Healthy, but not too healthy.
So-
Come on now.
Well, we don't want you to put up too much of a struggle.
Yeah.
I like my meat untainted with fear and testosterone and adrenaline.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, I say Pope wins. You guys don't know this.
You know, I
Pope-
think Briar's gonna win. He played the most BR games out of all of us.
I
He
play
has
quite a bit.
knowledge.
He's gonna be drunk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Briar's going to be 3 sheets to the
But
wind.
does that make Briar better?
He's going to be sabotaging everybody, trying to kill like themselves somehow.
Yeah. You remember when
I
he
definitely, that will be my main objective.
remember when he blew up the boat?
Yeah,
I do.
He's gonna
I do
he's gonna
remember
fill
that.
up his inventory with disco bombs and
Oh,
know.
yeah.
he's just gonna be trolling. Yeah, I'll take it seriously.
That's true. Pope is competitive.
It's too bad I'm old and slow and like. Ugh.
Pope's
All right,
gin
that's
tonics
gonna do
are
it.
all
That's all the
tonic.
Twitter questions we got.
Nice.
Oh wow, we did it.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you all for watching. And
Well, we're gonna roll
listening.
right into that.
Yeah,
Okay,
we are.
Yeah.
that's cool. I mean,
Um.
fine, Patrick.
Yeah.
I thought I would want to know more about your lick. How do you measure your pounds of licks? But that's cool.
We also want to know why you're wearing pants.
Yeah. What's up with that,
There's
Why am
man?
I wearing
really
pants?
Why are you wearing pants?
questions
You,
before-
you don't wear
I've been
I do
wearing
not
pants
care
for
why
like
you're
the
wearing
past
pants.
month and a half. Why are
No,
you just now
you
noticing?
haven't. No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
This is
I've
literally
never
the first
noticed
day.
your lower half wear.
Well, apparently, I appreciate. Let me just say that Low Lines, Goose, thank you very much for coming on the show. I can speak for definitely the crew here, but a good chunk of the community that you make our Destiny experience better. We appreciate the work you do and the many developers that work every day to work to create these and update these third-party apps. I know it's a selfless job. You know, you guys, it's not making you rich, and so we appreciate that. And I would highly encourage everybody, when you go to their websites, they didn't say it, but I will. There is a link up at the top left to donate and become a donor. Donate to their. If you find yourself linking into their apps on a regular basis, you can also help support them, and I encourage you to do that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right,
so this
Patrick,
is-
you're good.
It's always
Is it-
fun to
yeah.
hear people, having good experiences from the stuff we make. You know, like it's just nice to hear it every now and then. So
Oh, we definitely all appreciate
Absolutely.
it. For sure.
Yep.
I don't know how I'd play Destiny without any of these things.
Yep.
And the collaboration you guys have set, and how willing you are to help and mentor and bring on other people who are just interested in learning how to, that aren't necessarily do it as a full-time job, but want to learn and grow. That's huge. That's the next generation of coders and the next generation of community members who are going to make, the Anthem community or the Anthem item manager and the, whatever, the next thing. So
then that's it. I mean, and I would recommend, if you ever had any sort of desire to like learn programming and something like that, to just go look up the APIs, because I mean, if you play Destiny, you've got an incentive to learn. And who knows, you might find that it's something that you want to go study and learn how to do. And I've heard some really cool stories of people that have done no programming that wanted to do something with the APIs, and because they exist, they've then gone on to do some really cool stuff. So.
It's really cool.
that's great.
That's
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, Patrick, you can do your thing now.
Do
On my
15
show.
pounds
Okay.
up.
Okay. Hi, I'm Patrick. You can find me on Twitter at Holtzman_YT. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Bare
That was
minimum
about
this week, guys.
1
Bare
pound.
minimum.
That was not
Bare
the
minimum.
minimum.
Yeah, that was 1
That
pound
was
right
one
there.
pound. That was 1 lick pound of force. That was. You're not getting to the center of this Tootsie Roll pop.
Is that like
sir.
a Newton meter? What is that equivalent to?
Yeah.
We need
One
a
lick
full scale
pound.
measurement of this.
What is the standard measure?
1 pound lick, I guess.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm Briar Rabbit. You can talk to me at on Twitter. Just look at the Briar Rabbit.
I am Tefty Teft. You can talk to me at Teft on Twitter and catch my streams twitch.tv/Tefty Teft.
And I am Miss 5000 Watts. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Just look for Miss 5000 Watts.
Goose.
Yeah. I'm Rick Casey. You can find me DIM from time to time, and you can see us. You can talk to us on Twitter at This Is DIM.
Lily.
Yeah, I'm at Lowlines on Twitter, and obviously if you check out my website, if you still haven't collected all those sleeper nodes, at lowlidev.com.au because I'm Aussie.
Aussie. Yeah. So thank you again. All that work you guys do, very much appreciate it. This has been Pope Bear. You can find me on Twitter at Pope Bear. Make sure to follow the podcast at DCP_live. We have a great lineup of guests every week. We don't tweet a bunch of stuff, so go ahead and follow and put on the notifications. Let us know when we're going live. We upload our podcasts to everything, an RSS feed that you can pull down on your favorite app or iTunes or whatever. Make sure to rate us when you're done listening if you like what you hear. We also upload to YouTube, so just Google DCP Live and you'll find it. Or click down below and you'll see it. We also upload it to Skype and every other freaking place you can possibly think of. But if you have a hard time finding it, just message me and I'll link it to you. But we want to take this moment to tell everybody who supports us, these Twitch sponsors, the people who sub to us on Twitch, you guys are beautiful. The people who follow us and watch us on YouTube, and especially our patrons that support us every month and allow us to hire Nick, our audio engineer, and support our wonderful illustrator Ash in doing all the work she does. So thanks again, and you guys have a great morning, evening, beautiful day wherever you are.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back to read subs.
Bye, guys.